Yes, guys, you know what time it is. It's your boy David at the Irish Hotspur, Ireland's #1 Spurs fan, Ireland's largest Harry Kane fan. And basically, we're here to bring you some transfer news and some club news and go through all of the topics. We have a lot to get through. A lot of reports about Kessie this evening, Ndombele, Japhet Tanganga, Hugo re-signing his new contract, price hikes on the food and drink, pre-season potentially going to Korea, and going through Daniel Levy's biggest transfers, and a bit on yesterday's game as well. So we have an awful lot to get through tonight. But we are, of course, joined by co-host Jack Kinnicky, Sean from Spurs Short Talk Show, and Aaron from Mr. Spurs. And we'll start with Jack. Jack, how are you, my man?
Keeping well, Dave. Keeping well. Still riding the high, probably like everybody else, but also looking forward to, I would say, like I said in the back end, the smorgasbord of questions that you have going on today, Dave. I mean, probably some of the most prepared hosts in the business, you might say David is. Sometimes he's coming with probably like a plethora of questions of all different kinds, and we'll be covering lots tonight. So I would just say stick around, everybody. Probably something regarding transfers will be answered, something regarding the squad will be answered, something regarding Conte, Levy. I mean, I feel like we're covering everything tonight, Dave. Honestly, might have to take a break. We'll be covering so much after tonight, but really looking forward to this one.
No, 100%, my man. There's a lot to do, a lot to get to, and look, it's good. I absolutely love it. This is what we want. We want stuff to be able to talk about, and look, we brought on two absolute gems of men to be able to discuss it with us. And we'll start with Sean, my man. Sean, how are you keeping, brother?
I'm good, Dave. I'm a little bit hoarse from the screaming and shouting yesterday, and I'm very much worse for wear. I didn't sleep. I came off your show and was like, Dave, Jack, can we go on? Can we do another stream? Sean, it's 2:00 in the morning. Go to bed, bro. I didn't sleep very much, but I'm good. I'm good and happy to be back. Thank you for having me once again.
No, you're an absolute nutter, my man. Ready to go live at 2:00 in the morning. I was absolutely spent. I was done for. You know, Shawnee's there, come on. I was like, man, I can't. I'll come on tomorrow morning if you're going. But, no, honestly, I was hoarse. I was hoarse today. Jack rang me at like 3-4 o'clock today. I could barely fucking speak, my man. But look, Aaron, how are you, my man?
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, good win for Spurs last night. Looking forward to answering the questions and giving my thoughts. And once again, thank you for having me on. Yeah, so I'm good. Looking forward to, like I said, upcoming games and everything.
No, honestly, I absolutely love it.
Can't be playing my formation, so I'm happy.
No, I absolutely love it. And look, you know, we've got a good array of thoughts from the panelists tonight. But before we do get into it, let's fly through the chat. Let's see what Irish Hotspur Army we have in with us. We have Dom J. He says, Hugo's contract extended. I'm absolutely loving it, my man. Sue Smith is in the building. Big up, Sue. I hope you're keeping well. She says, still recovering from last night. What a roller coaster ride of emotions. Wow, it was absolutely, honestly, I still can't get over it. Adam McFarlane says, Hugo, come on, you Spurs. Big up, my man. Old Soul is in the building. He says, big up, lads and ladies. The only thing better than our win yesterday was the reaction on Irish Hotspur watch along. I've rewatched it a few times, and every time so much joy. Thanks, lads. I appreciate that, man. Absolutely everybody has been loving it and throwing compliments on it today. Look, you know, we don't do it for compliments. It's genuine reactions. And look, I'm just so glad that many people can rejoice in it with us. Chris says, evening all. Come on, you Spurs. Come on, you Flat Cap Army. Come on, you Harris Army. Chris, I hope you're feeling better, my man. We also have Rockstar90 says, hi all. And he also says, Arsenal are out there getting their camera. I'm absolutely loving life with that. I'll be honest with you. I kind of want to keep this at 2 hours tonight so I get plenty of time to go and troll AFTV. Honestly, it's all I really want to do tonight. I cannot wait. It's going to be so much fun. I cannot wait. It's honestly, it's my favorite pastime at times. Tango's in the building. Yeah, Tango, big yourself up, my man. We also have Cara Simpson. Evening, gents. Hope you're well. Looks like things are heating up in the market. Super happy. Larissa signed a new deal. Yeah, look, do you know what? I predicted at the start of the window it'd happen, but I thought deadline day, and I thought that'd be your signing. So I'm actually pleasantly surprised, and I'm happy. Alfie Gosling, hope all as well. Still can't get over last night. Bottle Job FC are losing, which we all love to see. Absolutely loving life. I'm loving it. Wembley 1 says, we created the David Harris Flat Cap Army the night after her historic comeback, and on the same night, the Goon Squad are getting stuffed. Absolutely love that, my man. Absolutely love it. Really appreciate it. Hope you're keeping well. Matt C. Considering FC, come on, you Spurs. Yeah, that is true. That is true. You do see a lot of that around. Dan Coy says, rewatch back your reactions to the third goal. David, I was shouting up and down in my hotel room. It was a great feeling when the ball went into the back of the net. Honestly, I lost my mind. I absolutely lost it.
Nothing like celebrating a hotel goal as well, especially if you're locked up in a hotel, Dave. I've been there before where you're just probably causing an absolute, disruption throughout the hallways. I mean, honestly, well done to you. Well done to you. Hotel celebrations.
Jack, if I may, because I've watched the thing back a few times today, and I have to ask you this question I didn't ask you at the time. When the second goal went in, when our equaliser went in, and Dave and I weren't sure if it was a handball, you still had that 30-second delay before you saw it. But when the third goal went in, you were celebrating. Were you celebrating before you saw it? Because
I think I refreshed probably in between then, so maybe I caught up to you guys. I think a little bit. I think at one stage it was 30 seconds, and at one stage it was around 10 seconds. But what's actually ridiculous is if I were in time and in sync with you guys, it would have been actually more crazy and more ridiculous, my celebration. So honestly, they were quite muted and quite tamed. So there you are, everybody. It could have gotten a lot more ridiculous if I actually had been in sync.
Look, Fan TV found it worthy enough clipping us. You gotta absolutely love it. I excuse my French. I done German in school, but Panama Est Magique says Ndombele PSG. We will be talking on that, my man. And hopefully, I absolutely nailed that pronunciation. It still sounds good, regardless. It sounds great. It's said in an Irish accent, so it sounds good. Ben Kaufman says, drinking the tears of the unfathomable sadness. Oh, I can't wait. Honestly, I cannot wait to get over to AFTV. I can't wait. Oh. Kev Williams says, AFTV is the gift that keeps giving. Anthony Gray's in the building. He says, the clock is getting louder with each passing day. We need 2 or 3 incomings to make a real impact for top 4. Without top 4 finishing Champions League, I think we'll struggle getting top players this summer. That's an absolute fair point, Anthony. Absolute great point. Josh Barrett says, loving all the content at the minute, lads. Keeping up. Coys. Really appreciate that, my man. Really appreciate that. Big yourself up, Josh. William Kelly says, we sign anyone yet? Not yet, William. We're still living in hope, my man. Still living in hope. T Mission says, Arsenal are out of the cup. I mean, absolutely loving it. Absolutely loving it. I can't wait. I might even do it while the boys are answering the questions here. Who says, still buzzing? Come on, you Spurs. Barnabas is in the house. Why Matt Hayes stopped coming on to this channel? He hasn't, my man. He's been on the last few transfer updates, so he has. Yeah. Matty is a very hard working man. He works for Optastats, and he's going for promotion there. So he does mad hours, so he's not always available, my man. But he hasn't stopped coming on the channel. Trust me. I was just on his channel earlier on today as well, lad. William Kelly says, don't let yesterday's performance distract from the fact that we haven't signed anyone. No, don't worry, William. We've got plenty of Levy stuff for you a bit later on in the show that you can sink your teeth into and maybe get at Sean about if you feel like it. But big up, William. Look, William, I'm going to say it now. I still believe we can get top 4. I know I'm a sucker, but I still believe it. Signings or no signings. Same. But I agree with you. We still do need bodies in. James Hunter's in the house. Big up, James Hunter. Who else have we got? We've got Francis Imoko. Good evening, guys. Still buzzing from the game yesterday. Oh, man, I'm absolutely buzzing. Mark Cousins is with us. Evening, lads. Perfect time in the scum have just lost. Yes, it is, my man. Zoe DS, absolute legends. Big up, lads. Big up, Zoe. Dan N, been saying it all window. Let Fabio cook. These things are starting to happen. Don't forget, we have the Don working for us. Exactly, my man. Every chef in the kitchen needs a bit of space to work the magic. You know what I mean? Big up, Dan. Kevin K, Levy in. You gotta love it. Alan says, good evening, guys. What a fantastic couple of nights of football. Oh, man, absolutely buzzing, Alan. Simon McLaw says, what a player party is coming on. 74 minutes, getting sent off 10 minutes later.
Oh, my God, I missed that.
Couldn't write it.
Well, I saw it on Sky Sports, but when the countdown was happening, I was laughing so much. Yeah, he's got sent off within that space of time. Yeah.
Just taking Xhaka's role. I mean, it's beautiful to see. It's honestly beautiful to see.
Brilliant.
I mean, do you know what I might do? Remember that video that Robbie and AFTV done where they done their stupid dancing? It looked like they were dancing around the roundabout going in circles. Well, I might actually clip that and to the video party sending off. You know what I mean? It'd be absolutely brilliant. Just troll the living crap out of them. William Kelly says, 2 of Levy's children in the house. He's referring to Aaron and Sean.
Yep. That's why we're going to Barbados in the summertime and you're not. Levy's watching us.
No, you gotta love it. You gotta love it. Big up, William. Big up, my man. I hope you're keeping well. And William, make sure you come on the fan show and speak to me on Monday. I miss you, man. I miss you. James Hunter is he says Kevin out. Shamu Van Spurs is in the building. Transfer news: 15 million for Adama rejected. Yeah, 100%, my man. 100%. Big up, Shamu. Chen Mehmet says, if you lot know anyone with a horse they don't want, I'll make Levy an offer he can't refuse. Big up, Chem. Chem is always disgruntled with the transfer window. I don't blame him. Joshi Balashi, 2004. Absolutely love the name, Joshi Balashi. Sounds like you should be in Super Mario with a name like that. Absolutely love it. It says Arsenal getting battered everywhere they go. I mean, that's Leicester and Arsenal in 2 nights. I mean, what a feeling. What a feeling it is. It's I'm loving life. I'm absolutely loving it. Let's welcome a few more. I don't want to miss anyone. We've got Derek Hutchinson. Big up, Derek, my man. He's always in. Andy Fenny says, evening, guys. Big up, Andy. We have still called. Scum got Barrett, Stephen the Cartwright in the house. We also have Coco here. Side Dance from THSE. Steven Blaise is in the house, my man. Clement, Colin Turner as well. Big yourself up. Danny Kiriakou. Do. He's in the house, my man. I hope you're keeping well. We Ain't Having It is in the house as well. God, I love that name. Claude Murphy, my man. It's good to see you, and I hope you're keeping well. We also have got Buru Construction. Hi, guys. Love last night's game. What a game. I mean, absolutely loving life. If you can't find happiness in that, then you're never going to be happy. Eugene Ho is in the house. Big yourself up. We also have Lee Richards. Lying scumbags cheat and still lost tonight. You got to love that, my man. We also have Eddie Gonzalez. We have Comrade Pingu, my man. I hope you're keeping well as well. Paul Mansbridge is in the building. Brian Maguire, William Tiger, Steve D. Brian Maguire and William Tiger. I love that. It should be a rap song. Steve D. Adam Higgins. We also have Sabar. Just make sure I'm not missing anyone. Dottie's in the building with us. Big up, Davey boy. Hope you're keeping well. And we've got AK Gaming and Aidan Doherty and Adam McFarlane as well. Look, Adam, I would take Lingard, I think, for the here and now. I think he'd do well to the end of the season. But United ain't giving us Lingard this January transfer window with them going for top 4. It's just not happening, my man. But look, guys, we are going to get into it. And we have Eric Hudson late arrival as well. We have a lot to get through tonight, like I already discussed. So everybody, make sure you smash that like button. Make sure you do smash that subscribe button if you are new. We're about 12 or 13 away from reaching 5.5K. Let's see if we can make it happen tonight. That's why the likes on yesterday's stream over 700. Absolutely incredible. Let's see if we can get in another good 1 to 200 here today. But look, we will get into it, and we'll just start on last night's game, get everyone's quick thoughts on it. Jack, what's your thoughts on last night's game? And despite grabbing the equalizer and winner at the very end, do you feel like those 3 points were well deserved, my man?
Yeah, I think that's kind of the whole meaning behind that last match, was because we were finding ourselves 2-1 down that late into the match. And we just were actually probably scratching our heads, Dave, just looking all around the room, thinking like, how on earth are we 2-1 down at this stage in the game? Like, we have had a plethora of chances. We've had two saved off of the line. We've had some honestly spectacular chances missed as well by certain players in particular. It just felt like we just deserved to be up at least 3-2, at least 4-2. I mean, it just, even the goals we conceded felt like we were really hard done by and really unlucky for as well. And so, I don't know, Dave, I think it just felt momentous. It felt like the opposite of, I guess, the word Spursy, in the fact that we actually came back and got what we deserved, which was the 3 points. The 3 points, Dave, were absolutely well deserved. The goals in which we scored via Bergwijn were honestly sensational and unbelievable. It just feels great to actually have 3 points that we know we deserved, and to claw it back that sort of way. It doesn't matter because we deserve them.
No, we 100% we deserved them. And look, it's a huge momentum shift going forward. Big up, Marcelo, my man. I hope you're keeping well. I know you enjoyed last night and tonight's Arsenal losing. But look, we'll get on to Shawnee. Shawnee, what's your thoughts on the game?
Yeah, well,
Shane Fleming as well. Thank you. He's a Liverpool fan. Thank clap for me, my man.
Yeah, massive night, right? Massive night. I think it was, like I said last night a few times, I think it was more than, like, it was so much more than just the 3 points. It was the fighting spirit. It was the way that we scored the second goal, and then, you know, Bergwijn, who's had a tough time of it, he didn't run off into the stands after the second goal. He just did a little kind of gesture to the crowd whilst fighting with Schmeichel to get the ball back, and then they went again. You know, when Arsenal equalised against Crystal Palace a couple of weeks ago, they went in the 90th minute. They went, all of them, charging into the crowd like they'd won something. Tottenham didn't. Like, no, we want more. So it was a fantastic demonstration of fight, of grit, of passion, of team spirit. The scenes at the end were brilliant. It was great for all of us. It was great for the people around the world who stayed up late for the umpteenth time this season to watch a performance that justified their passion and their dedication to our project, our cause. And I think it's just brilliant for morale generally. It gets everyone in a good mood, and it's a crucial part of the season. This is probably, we're getting into the business end now of the wedge, and I think it just pushes us into a really, really positive place, because there has been a ton of negativity, a ton of it. It gets draining. You know me, I'm someone that always tries to find something positive out of a situation, but it does get draining being surrounding the negativity at times, especially in transfer windows, understandably so. And so this is just a moment, I think, where it's just great. Everyone's united. The fans, the team, the chair, maybe the chairman, maybe not the chairman, but the management, the coaches, everyone can get behind it. It's so much more than the 3 points, and it tastes so good.
Honestly, it does. Doesn't even need any sugar to sweeten it up. It's sweetened up, baby. You gotta love it. You gotta love it. And Aaron, my man, what is your thoughts on last night's game?
Yeah, actually, same as Shane. What impressed me more than the win was the fact that, like Shane said, when Spurs scored, they didn't celebrate it. They Virgil went to get the ball, then Kane actually went and shoved Schmeichel out of the way. He actually went in and bumped it out of the way and got the ball, put the ball in the center circle, and carried on. And you know what? If that hadn't happened and Spurs celebrated, the kickoff, the whistle would have been blown. And I don't think Spurs deserved to have been drawn. I think that would have been a loss if Spurs had drawn. So to get the win, and the team performance was good. It just Conte played three in the middle, which I think a lot of Spurs fans were warming to, and it showed exactly why, because they played good. And I was saying it all night. If Son Heung-min was next to Kane, Spurs would have annihilated Leicester, absolutely annihilated them. And Pierre went running. I thought Skip was really good. He had so much energy, played his full 90 minutes, running to the end. And I think it was just a winning mentality, and that's what I like to see. I haven't seen that from Spurs a long time. Scoring a goal, getting the ball back, and right, we want to win this match against Leicester. So I was really happy for that, and it gave me confidence to go, right, finally the players are starting to realize we should be winning matches. We shouldn't be hoping for a draw or, we're unlucky, sulking. I think the win for Spurs fans as well, like Sean said as well, I think even if a draw, it would have been a lot of negativity going around, and it just kind of eases that at the moment. It was good to watch and see. I was happy like every Spurs fan was.
Sorry, Dave. Jack, one last thing in my little review. There was something I was trying to think. What was the last thing I wanted to tick off that was an absolute necessary thing to mention? And it was the fact that we figured out a new method of playing last night. I haven't seen us do it before, where you have Ben Davies hugging the left wing, Tanganga at times hugging the right, Skippy going out and supporting, allowing Højbjerg to have more space. And when he has more space, because there's more Leicester players following us out wide, he suddenly became this passing god. And no one would have ever given him the credit for being a fantastic passer. But last night he showed what he does for his international team. Maybe because the situation, the formation allowed him to have more space, more time on the ball, less players within 3 feet of him, both Tottenham and Leicester or the opposition, and also allowed for Lucas and Harry Kane to come deep, and then the overlap around the wing, almost like a blitzkrieg. I don't know if you guys remember from history class, what the Germans did when they would go into France. They start here and they'd come around the side with pace and aggression. And I think the new formation, it was a tactic that we haven't seen, and it was a tactic that A, it worked, and B, it maybe offers us something else now for when we're playing against these stubborn teams who sit back and don't want to allow us to go at them through the middle. So very interesting.
Well said, Sean. Well said.
Absolutely spot on. So look, before we take some of these super chats, let's actually talk about last night's system. Of course, it was a 3-5-2, and we'll stick with you, Shawnee, and then go to Jack and then Aaron. But so it's 3-5-2. What you want to see going forward, then, is basically what you're saying. It suits the players we have, and the players suit the system, basically.
Well, look, I mean, I think you always have to have option A, B, and C up your sleeve, right? And I think that I think Southampton figured out I'm sure it wasn't Southampton weren't the first team to do it, but Southampton was the kind of most obvious recent example of when they had to dig in and we struggled to break them down. Watford tried and did very well until like the 96th minute to frustrate us. And so we didn't have this option, right? And so now we've got this option. Leicester didn't know we were going to do it. Leicester haven't seen Tottenham do it before. So it's nice to have that in the kind of in the bag of tricks. But then obviously in the next few games, if we do that too often, then the other teams will find a way to counterbalance it. So I don't want to see it necessarily all the time. I like the pivot. I like 3-5-2 like this. I like 3-4-3 when we're playing against teams who are going to come after us, because I do want that pace. You know, I said this to you guys before. I do like the idea when teams that aren't worried so much about what Tottenham are doing, they'd rather worry about what they're doing, like Chelsea's, the Cities, the Liverpools. And I think that when we get the ball in those situations, it's better to have pace up front that we can pocket into the corners.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it's nice to have a new system, a new trick, and to keep the opposition guessing. So it's nice. Yeah, I'm not sure if I want to see it every week because it might not be necessary every week, but it's just good to have a new system that we haven't seen before, and it works. So.
No, 100%, and like you were alluding to, he used the whole pitch. He spread everyone out across the whole pitch. He had all areas covered, and it was an absolute unbelievable show, and it helped us footballing wise. I mean, we played some of the best football we have seen in a long time. But Jack, you know, what's your thoughts on this 3-5-2? Do you think Conte is maybe finally starting to get to the formation that he actually wants to play? And is it a formation we can deploy to maybe get us to top four?
Is the 3-5-2? I feel like we need to make a certain signing in the central midfield for that to be like the mainstay sort of kind of formation for us, because as much as I was really pleased by our three midfielders in that 3-5-2, I feel like we need to then bulk up in sort of those sort of areas in order to really get, you know, that formation really going for us. But I think everybody honestly need to applaud Sean for that sort of analysis, because I feel like we used every inch of grass on that pitch a lot more effectively, and maybe the best way that we could probably see that was what Sean was saying in terms of the way the center backs were absolutely spreading, you know, the entire length of the pitch. They were hugging the touchline actually at certain stages of the game as well. With Tanganga, I mean, we all know Ben Davies gets forwards, but Tanganga was getting really far forward as well. And I think it just had to force Leicester to actually, you know, kind of respect those sort of center backs, because even if Tanganga isn't a great ball player, when he's picking up the ball in the area that he was, you still have to respect it, and you have to actually honor the danger that he actually could pose from those sort of positions. And Sean described that well. But Dave, I think the reason I really liked the 3-5-2 yesterday is because even though Harry Winks, I feel like, didn't have a great game, with Harry Winks playing that holding midfield role, it does allow Skip and Højbjerg to push much higher up the pitch. And if we are trying to win the ball high up the pitch and we are trying to press really well, David, even in the beginning of the watch long, you said we press really well. That has to do with the fact that we have Højbjerg and Skip as our actual pressers, which we all know are absolute workhorses. So when you do see them pushing high up the pitch, we not only can keep possession on their side of the pitch because we have two ball winners up there, but also if we can maybe force a mistake and we can make life really uncomfortable for them, because you have two absolute Vikings up there just being able to basically hold that sort of press and kind of keep everything really high up the pitch in the opposition half, which I actually say the 3-5-2, that's the best way you can do it, because with the 3-4-3, you can't really do that. You can't send Skip and Højbjerg up there when it's only two men in the midfield. When you have three men in the midfield, it's a lot easier, and I think we found success with that.
No, absolutely spot on. My thoughts exactly, Jacko. And yourself, Aaron, I mean, like, do you prefer the 3-5-2?
Yeah, the reason why is because I think it gives Spurs more of a solid midfield. I think sometimes Pierre and Skip, we all know they're too defensive and they get outrun. And Conte, it's really interesting because Conte, before the two goals happened, Conte actually changed the system and became a 4-4-2. He brought Lo Celso on, and I think he played on the right, and Moura was moved to the left, and Steven Bergwijn and Harry Kane were more up front, and Pierre and Skip pretty much went in the middle. But yeah, like the 3-5-2 is good, and I do think that Spurs have the right players to play that formation a lot more, because it gives Harry Kane a striking partner in a way, whether it's Moura or Bergwijn or Son, and you have that pace, and like you said, Pierre getting forward and Skip getting forward with the knowledge of having Winks to cover everything was also good. And it also gave, Tanganga license to, get up to get up top. Davies does it a lot, but I just think that Spurs have always been overrunning the midfield, and that's their biggest issue. And to just keep that solid was good. I mean, Leicester didn't score until the wings came off, and they kind of changed that 3-4, the three in the middle. And I think, so 3-4-2 is definitely the way to go forward. And I've been saying that from the start of Conte. He has to shore up that midfield because Spurs have a lot of midfielders. Lo Celso can play in there, and Dembele could have played in there. So it's kind of like using that, use the players that you have. And like I said before, given I think that's why Harry Kane was really good. The last time I saw Harry Kane play like that was against Liverpool when he played the 3-4-5-2. I just think that it's about time that Harry, we can get a backup striker, second striker, but it just goes to show that when Spurs have two strikers up front, it just causes a lot of problems. And that means Harry Kane doesn't have to drop deep because he has Winks who made that, assist to him as well. So Harry Kane is not having to, drop deep and be the creator. He can rely on Winks or Pierre. Doherty was able to get forward as well. It gave more space to everyone, stretched the team out. And like I said before, I think that if Son was in that team last night, Leicester would have been out of it. They would, a high score. I think Spurs would have punished them. So going forward, I think that's it. And hopefully he plays it against Chelsea because I think that formation can beat Chelsea. And I was disappointed that he didn't play that in the League Cups. But like I said, it's a good formation. It's strong in the middle, and he can always revert and change it back to during the game. I think Conte always changes whatever formation he starts with. He changes it, so Spurs actually play two formations in one game every single time.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, it's really interesting how he's done it.
100%, he does. He does like to change it, especially if it's not working. And good observation, Aaron. Good observation, man.
Well said.
Tin Man 007 says, "Evening, guys. Was breakdancing last night after the 97th winner. Away fan scenes looked amazing. Bring on Chelsea." Honestly, it did. I mean, they ended up coming onto the pitch celebrating. The players wanted to celebrate with the fans, but the stewards wouldn't allow it. They wanted to get in the way. And you seen Lucas Moura jumping all over them. The number one. I mean, it was absolute scenes. I mean, I would have loved to have been down the front of that yesterday. I would have got to touch my little hair. I would have pulled a strand of hair while I was doing it as well and put it in my pocket for safeguarding. But no, absolute unbelievable.
Yeah.
Tin Man, I didn't realize you had the break dancing in you, my man. I didn't realize you had the break dancing in you. Let me know what moves you were popping. Big up, Tin Man. Humphrey says, "Let's march on to top four, peeps." David, you are not a sucker. You are not a sucker. Booker T. No, absolutely. No, some people do. Some people call me a sucker for believing. But look, I'm always 9 times out of 10 a half glass full sort of guy. So I definitely think we can do it. I mean, we've got games in hand. Teams around us do be dropping points all the time. So now if we can go on a little tiny run, and we are 9 unbeaten on the Conte, I mean, how good does that sound? We go 10. That equals Ole Gunnar Shoeshiner's record as well at United. Thomas Tuchel's at Chelsea. And then we have, if we go 13, then Conte will be the longest unbeaten streak after taking over a club. Just before, I said it before, I don't know if it was this stream or another one. I believe Spurs can finish third and possibly second. I know that's a far cry. I know that's a far cry. I think they can. And the reason why, Liverpool, Chelsea, they're not blowing teams away. They really are not. And even if Spurs get a draw against Chelsea, the games that they have, it's going to be week by week. They're not, apart from the rescheduled games. So Spurs will have rest. Man City, Chelsea, Liverpool, they're going to be in the Champions League. Like I said before, I do believe if Spurs win all the games in hand, they finish. They're second. And I think with Conte at the helm, they could finish as high as third. That's what I've thought.
Yeah.
Honestly, people are going to be watching and be like, "Dave's deluded enough. Where did he get this guy from?" Absolutely not.
I've just.
Why not? Why not?
Yeah, it's
easily happen.
It's I mean, because like Chelsea aren't doing well in the Premiership. They've lost a couple of games, and yes, okay, Stamford Bridge is the Hindu ground, but if Spurs can get a draw and then the international breaks, I think it's only 3 players that's going away. I think all the rest players get to go and golf and come back refresh with that momentum. I mean, think about it. Like, you've got United, who they can. I think Spurs under Conte with that momentum, they finally have a manager who, if they get them top 4, he's not going to go right. Let's relax, guys. let's finish as high as possible. And if Spurs get the win, mark my words, it will be like, can Spurs catch City? That, I know it sounds weird, but it could be. It's a huge possibility.
No, that's over the top. No. That's over the top.
Can Spurs catch Man City? Because if you think about it, the level of Spurs are playing, and even the game against Watford and the game last night has shown that Spurs aren't going to be a team that's just going to, be settled for a draw. And if those players are coming together, and especially a couple of new signings, why not?
It's all about injuries, though, Oren. Like, people think it's all about signings, and to a degree, that's important. But if you get new signings in and then they get injured, then you might as well have not signed them, right? And if we can keep the squad we have now fully fit, if we don't sign anybody, but everyone that we have now gets back to full fitness, and we don't have any long-term injuries between now and May, then I think we'll be a top 4 candidate regardless. But for me, it all depends on what happens to how Romero comes back with his injury. Is he managed well? Does he stay fit? Does Harry Kane stay fit? Does Sonny come back without any issues? Do we lose a Skippy or a Højbjerg, or God forbid a Hugo Lloris? So if anything happens to those, then all bets are off, no matter who you sign, right? But injuries are more important than signings, in my opinion.
Well, again, I'm like yourself, Sean. I'm a very, I'm an optimist, and I think that the defense haven't played too bad considering we've missed Dyer and Romero. Yeah. Sanchez has played good. Tanganga's played
Reguilon,
well. And Reguilon. So if you have those players who are finally stepping up and pushing, the first team players, because it'll be really, should Sanchez be dropped just because Romero's back? I think Sanchez has.
We've had this debate.
Yes.
We've had this debate, and I could understand because of his pass, but since the Mora game, even last night, he actually had a couple of, errors, but that was good play by Leicester, and I think a lot of Spurs defenders, especially Dyer and everyone, has got criticized. But sometimes you got to look at the other team and think, you know what? The other team had to be in that position to score the goal, and we have to give credit to that attacking team as well.
Their first goal was class. When the guy, I forget who it was it Daka who slid through the other fella? Look Money or whatever it is. What's his name?
Oh, Daka scored.
And who was the other fella up front that slid him through? Lookman.
Lookman.
Could have. He had options, right? He could have had a shot. He could have dragged it back behind him, but instead he put that little dinky pass through to Daka. Yeah. That was a quality team goal from Leicester in the end.
Yeah.
Well, big up, Humphrey, my man. I really appreciate the support, brother. I really appreciate it. William Kelly says, Sal Bergvine, I was disappointed with his celebration. I would have somersaulted into the crowd like a WW.
So good. It was honestly so good.
Hugo Lloris ran the length of the pitch to stop him from doing it, and Højbjerg was also stopping him from doing it, because if he would have done it, he would have got a second yellow, which would have meant a red card, and it means he would have missed Chelsea. So it's a good job he didn't. So it's thank God for that, because we need him against Chelsea, whether it's off the bench or whether it's starting up top with Harry Kane. We need him. So it's a good job he didn't, William. It's a good job he didn't, my man, but really appreciate the support. But look, guys, we're going to get into some transfer news now, because I think it's what people are here for. So let's start giving them some. And I don't know whether to start with the club news or start with players that are linked with us. No, I think we'll start with players that are linked with us and then come back to the Tanguy and Ndombele situation. So look, it's been reported by Calcio Mercato that Tottenham Hotspur have told AC Milan. Oh no, this is on Tanganga again. I need to go down. My bad. Where are we? Oh yeah, so we'll start with Ousmane Dembele. Now this is one that Newcastle and Tottenham have both been linked with, and there will be plenty of rumours with just 11 days remaining of the transfer window, because Ousmane Dembele and Barcelona are at loggerheads. And Barcelona, Dembele's agent came out, I believe it was yesterday or the day before, and said that Barcelona can't treat him the way they do or something like that, and they can't stop him from leaving basically. And so Barcelona have told Ousmane Dembele he must leave this January transfer window as well. Look, me personally, I'm just going to throw my quick thoughts on this, and then we'll go to Jack on it. But look, this guy is trouble. I've heard a lot about him. He's always in the papers. He turns up late. Apparently a bit of an ego. And me personally, I'd stay away from him. But you will see a lot of rumours with this guy between now and the end of the window. But Jack, I mean, what's your thoughts maybe on a potential Ousmane Dembele signing? Should we go for him?
I don't think we should go for him. I mean, I think There are a few reasons. The first part is probably the wages are going to be actually quite astronomical. Potentially the fee to get him out or away from Barcelona this window could be quite big as well. But the other problem, I think, Dave, is that the guy, yes, he has all the talent in the world. He's actually quite similar to the Tanguy situation. He has tons of talent. I think the reason he even popped up on the scene in the kind of the basis of when he was over at Dortmund and other, I think it was Rennes or whatever club he came from originally. He was known as being a really two-footed player. Like he could be able to finish with both feet, kind of like Mason Greenwood. He was able to also just take on any single man he could, and he still can do that to a degree now. But I think, as you pointed out, Dave, the attitude problems have been huge. Take yourself back to when he was over at Borussia Dortmund when they just signed him, and he actually left, I believe, like after like 7 or 8 months or whatever it was, like one good season, and then all of a sudden he decided to leave and was saying that he was too good for Borussia Dortmund. I think that says a lot about the sort of player that he is, where he just kind of thought he's too good for his own good, I feel like, Dave. And it's actually hurt him, I think, a lot, where he's let the ego of his own skills and his own ability get to his head. You probably might say, quite similar maybe to a Tanguy and Ndombele. So, Dave, I'm completely with you. I wouldn't go for him, not only because of the wages and potentially the fee, but also because that attitude is actually quite huge. And it has more to do with, I think, his ego than any other kind of thing. He really does rate himself quite highly, which is fine, but it's almost he's rated himself so highly that he is actually come to a detriment, I think, to his own sort of playing career to a degree. And I think the best example would be, I think, when Thomas Tuchel was actually coach over at Borussia Dortmund.
Yeah, absolutely spot on. Mr. Spurs, have you any thoughts on it?
Yeah, same as Jack. He has a bad attitude, and I think and his injury, for what he's saying and what Barcelona has had to deal with, and his injury issues and his problems, and even when he played with Messi tried his best to like nurture him and try and advise him and keep him right. But I think he's too egotistical. He's injured all the time, and he's just a waste of a player. And if he's getting injured in the Spanish league, which is technically slower and not as fast in the Premiership, he'll be injured in the Premiership after like one tackle. So I think Spurs should still, well clear of that guy and look to spend the money on someone who is a bit tougher and a bit hardened. I think he's going to find it very difficult to find a club, and especially for what he's doing against Barcelona. Again, like I said, Barcelona stuck by him with all the injuries that he's had, and now he's like saying they're blackmailing him. And if you're doing that to a club that's helped you out that way, he's just another young player that's let everything go into his head. And yeah, Spurs should stay well away from him, not even be conned into him at all. I think he'll be, such a bad influence and injuries, and he'll be another Ndombele all over, and it'll be even worse.
No, you guys are absolutely spot on. It will be another Ndombele situation, and we just do not need it. We're trying to get rid of one guy who's ruining squad, and we definitely don't need another one in. So, look, but it wouldn't surprise me being an opportunist deal if Spurs try to sneak in for it. It literally would not surprise me. But then again, it just goes to show that they're not doing their homework. But look, that's it on Ousmane Dembele. So we move on now to Adama Traore. And we actually we put in a bid. It's come out this evening that our bid has been rejected. So Wolves have rejected Tottenham's £15 million, 18 million euros offer for Adama Traore. Boss Antonio Conte wants the wide man this month, but Spurs bid has been rebuffed. So basically, and the reason why, just maybe people out there that don't know the reason why maybe Traore might be a bit cheap, is because he only has 18 months left on his deal at Wolves, and he has been unable to agree a new contract despite around a whole year of talks. Wolves are hoping for 20 million, which is 24 million euros. For Traore, who cost Wolves 18 million anyway from Middlesbrough in 2018. So, I mean, Sean, why do you think this deal is taking so long? And with the delay on this signing, does it make you think whether Spurs actually really want them?
So, I mean, first and foremost, I think that I understand everyone's frustrations, and this is in no way defending our lackluster, efforts so far. But what I would say is that 9 out of 10 transfers that happen in the January transfer window that are of significance to either the selling club or the buying club generally always happen in the last sort of 10 days, right? So you get it. It always happens because I said this before. There's like this Mexican standoff. No one wants to buy before they sell before they buy, because whatever gap they're leaving, the person that they're going to buy to replace that person is they're gonna have the other chairman's going to have leverage over them, right? So it's always going to be a tricky, when you've only got 31 days to do business. It's always going to be tricky to get that stuff done in January. What I would say on top of with Traore is obviously there's variables, right? How long is left in the window? You know, does the selling club, how long is left in the player's contract? Does the selling club have a ready-made replacement to fill the gap? There's always variables, but right now it generally seems like there is a baseline price that an average player in the Premier League appears to be worth 20 million. And if Tottenham want to be a top 4 club, you need to have a team that has about a combined value of, say, 400 million, right? 450.
Right.
A top 4 level player you should have like a 35 million pound valued player at least in every position, then hopefully a couple of superstars that can get you the rest of the way. Liverpool have got it. You know, Chelsea definitely have got far better than that. City have as well. And so if Tottenham are going after Adama Traore, and I would argue that Adama Traore does offer value, he is a Premier League level player. So I think that 20 million, I don't know about the variables. His contract length is 18 months. I don't know if he signed anyone, but I think that 15 million is underpaying. When you see what 15 million pound gets you any other day in the week or any other time, it doesn't get you very much. So if Daniel Levy is only valuing a player of Adama's quality at 15 million, I think that Wolves are probably right to hold out for more. And if Tottenham want him, then 20 million, I think, is a fair price. To your point, Dave, does he really want him? Well, maybe after last night's performance by Bergwijn, maybe not, right? Like maybe the offensive option that we need is no longer as desired. And I said this yesterday. I don't think Adama is a ready-made right wing back. I think he'll need at least 6 months to be able to adapt to that role. I think he's too big of a man as a physical specimen to be able to carry that body weight. The muscles that he got just chews up oxygen. So I don't think he can do 98 minutes of running up and down the touchline every week. So I don't think he's not going to plug a hole that we need filled at the moment. And so therefore, you know, I'd rather if the difference between 15 and 20 million, first of all, I think Wolves are right to value him at 20 million. Second of all, if money is that tight for Tottenham, I'd rather go and spend it on one of the other transfers that you're about to mention, a Kessie or whatever else, put it into the salaries to bridge the gap there. I don't think Adama's work. I don't mind having Adama in the summer when we've got more time to figure out what we need and look, because I don't think he's going to plug any holes anyway between now and then. So, yeah, I don't know if that answers your question, but I think that you have to look at the valuations and what you can get for your money. And I think that 15 million pound for Adama is undervaluing him, because I do think he's a Premier League level.
No, absolute fair point. Absolute fair point, my man. Look, me just quickly, Spurs know the going rate if they want them. I get negotiations and stuff like that, but in a January transfer window where players are hard enough to come by as is, for me, if you really want them, just stump up that 5 million and go and get them. But look, I could definitely see Sean's point on it 100% as well. But look, moving on from Adama, because there's not much more to cover. I mean, that's just the latest on it. We put in a bid of £15 million and it's been knocked back. So whether we go back remains to be seen. Jack, we'll go back to you with this one before, and then we'll go to Mr. Spurs with a bit on Kessie. Tottenham Hotspur in the race to sign Roma's Jordan Veretout, according to Calcio Mercato. The Italian outlet claims Spurs boss Antonio Conte has the Frenchman in his sights. Indeed, Conte reportedly wanted Veretout at Inter, who he led to the 2021 Serie A title. He has gone from unsubstitutable to dispensable, and his departure is now a concrete possibility. Basically, he's fallen out of favour at Roma. He is a player that did actually play for Aston Villa back in the day. Of course, I think they got relegated. I think he's playing for Fiorentina now, or else he has played for Fiorentina and Nantes. Sorry, he plays for Roma now, doesn't he? That's
he plays for Roma now.
Price tag is around 25 to 30 million euros, or million euros, which works out about 20 to 25 million pounds. Jack, what's your thoughts on this guy? Is he what, like, more or less what we have? Does he add value to the team? And is it a player you can see us maybe getting in this window?
He's kind of one of those like lesser known, I feel like, sort of kind of players. We kind of talk about signing the Frank Kessies of the world, the Weston McKennies of the world, which I think would be great signings if you were looking for more of like a Levy budget version of that sort of player. That's also for the here and now, Dave. I mean, a lot of players talk about getting, people that aren't necessarily projects that are actually here for the here and now. And Jordan Veretout, to a degree, is that. I believe he's around 28 years old. And he actually has been kind of around, he's been in, Liga, he's been in the Premier League, he's been in Serie A, and it's actually come into a bit of form, actually, the last 2 seasons. Last season, he had a pretty good season over at Roma under Fonseca. And then this season, he actually started off on fire, Dave, actually, under Jose Mourinho. He's actually banging in goals in the beginning. And then he's kind of somehow fallen out of favor, which is quite common, it seems like, under Jose Mourinho. But I believe he has like 4 goals and 6 assists in just the Serie A, Dave. And he's actually kind of fallen out of favor, which it might suggest that he does have a goal in him and he does have an assist in him. He has a really good passer of the ball, Dave. He basically would be, to summarize quickly, he would be kind of that box-to-box sort of midfielder that we've been looking for. Would he be that creative, deep-lying midfielder? I'm not really sure. I don't think he really fits that mold, but I think he would be that sort of box-to-box midfielder that could pop up with a goal. I think a similar player maybe in the Serie A would be like, if anybody knows that guy Pasalic, who plays for Atalanta, that guy will sometimes pop up with a goal every now and again. It seems like Jordan Veretout, I would say, is a bit similar to that. A good ball winner, though, I would say probably like maybe similar to someone like a Skip or a Højbjerg, but probably has maybe a bit better of a shot on him. 28 years old, Dave, French midfielder, has kind of been around, across Europe's top 5 leagues. I feel like if 20 to 25 million, I would say he's actually worth it. Any more than that, I'm not sure if he's really worth it, especially since he's 28 years old and he's already kind of out of favor. But I don't know, Dave, he'd be that box-to-box midfielder that we could go for if we didn't go for Kessie or McKennie.
Very interesting there, Jack. Interesting thoughts. To be honest with you, I don't really know too much about the guy, so it was interesting to hear what your thoughts were. And so you reckon he can definitely add something, so?
I think you would add something. Like I've said, before, Dave, we have 3 players in the likes of Dele Alli, Gio Lo Celso, and Tanguy Ndombele that we all probably would call creative midfielders, and they all offer nothing to us. Like, they're all pretty much useless to us. So if you would replace one of those 3, we have 3 creative midfielders that we're not using. So might as well replace one of those creative midfielders with more of a hardworking box-to-box sort of midfielder that can pop up with a goal to maybe help out the likes of, Højbjerg and Skip, who are our hardest working midfielders and don't really have very much backup in their sort of position. So I feel like Veretout would be good competition for them, could actually start easily in our squad, but also be good backup for them when we actually need it. So maybe, like I said, 20 to 25 million, I think that'd be actually worth it. Any more than that, not really feeling like that would be something that Levy should do.
Yeah, well, look, it does seem like we're looking to go for a box-to-box midfielder, because we're going to get on to Kessie now in 1 second. I'll just take this super chat from Tottenham Tantrum Gold. And he says, Levy went to his piggy bank and found out it was empty. He went to Joe Lewis. I had no money. Spurs got no one. February 1st. Levy, wake up to the noise. Brian Daigle banging on his door. Big up Mr. Spurs and Sean. Basically, he's telling you, Sean, get ready for February 1st.
Well, listen, whatever happens between now and February the 1st, it's not going to, not going to affect the debate, because, it's going to affect how people. I mean, I know that everyone that's going to be in the comments anyway are going to be Levy out. So I know my chances are going to be tough, or my odds are going to be slim. But the February the 1st is as a review of the chairman in his 21 years. 1 month doesn't change anything there, especially when that same thing is the thing that the Levy outs have been saying is consistent over the last 20 years anyway. So, but listen, I agree with you, man. Like, come on, Daniel. Fucking mate, have a crack, mate. You want to play. You want to be a football chairman.
You want transfers this window?
Of course I do. Of course I do. And I agree with everybody who says that Daniel Levy is a terrible negotiator. Like, people that think, he had this reputation of being a great negotiator. I was like, no, he's not. That's not. You don't negotiate by saying my price is 50 million. Take it or leave it. Well, we'll leave it. Okay, then. Yeah. That's not negotiations. That's just hardline stubbornness. So I agree with everybody who has problems with Daniel Levy on that front. I just always think there's other things about a chairman's role which he's been very good at. That's all I ever say. So
No. That's fair. That's fair. But big up, Dermot, my man. And look, I definitely agree with the sentiment. Look, we need the money, my man. We need one or two players in. And look, this debate between Sean and Brian Daigle on the 1st of February, it's going to be absolutely fantastic.
I've got spreadsheets. I've got PowerPoint slides. Like I'm putting out the stops here. This is going to be an education at worst. At worst, it's going to be an education.
Oh, you gotta love it. You gotta absolutely love it. Well, big up, Dermot, my man. I really do appreciate the support, brother. And everybody, do get over and check out this fantastic YouTube channel, Tottenham Tantrum Gold. You'll absolutely love it. Get over there and check it out and smash the subscribe button on it. Big up, Dermot, my man. I really do appreciate the support. I really do. And everyone else, feel free to get your super chats in with your thoughts, question for the panels. Basically, it's a great way to skip the queue. We will try and bring everybody's comments up on screen as best as we can. Sometimes we get a small bit behind, but we're keeping up today. But if you want to skip that queue, just get the super chat in. And guys, it is a great way to help support the channel. And over 300 in-house, keep smashing that like button and keep smashing that subscribe button. But big up Tottenham Tantrum Gold. And then we have one here from Paul Markey, which I'll take after. I just want to get the boys' thoughts on Kessie first, Paul. If that's all right. But we're going to move on to Frank Kessie now. According to the Telegraph and Sky Sports, Lyle at Sky Sports as well, Tottenham Hotspur are contemplating a move for AC Milan midfielder Frank Kessie in the January transfer window. The North Londoners are keen to beat the summer rush and also add to their squad ahead of a battle for top four. Kessie is in the final 6 months of his current deal with Milan and could reach a pre-contract agreement with clubs outside Italy this month. Since other English clubs and Paris Saint-Germain have also shown an interest in the midfielder, Tottenham are looking to beat them off by basically signing them this window. And Conte apparently has demanded a midfielder this January transfer window as well. So this is one to maybe definitely keep an eye on. This is one that might gather a bit of momentum over the next few days. It still remains to be seen whether AC Milan want to sell. I mean, they had a chance to go top at the weekend in Serie A, didn't take it, but they're only 2 points off top. So it remains to be seen whether they do want to sell him or not. Be very interesting to see what happens there. But also, just to add to that, and I will get back to it, but they are also looking at Japhet Tanganga. So maybe is there a way we can maybe do a deal there, swap deal or whatever it may be? Who knows? But definitely keep an eye on this one. And we'll go to you, Mr. Spurs, on this first. Look, this one seems like a very difficult player deal to pull off. But do you think we could pull it off? And would we be making the right decision to go for him in January to try and beat the other clubs who are maybe circling like sharks to sign him on a free?
Yeah, for sure. And I think what Spurs should do if they really want him is buy him, but loan him back to AC Milan for the rest of the season. And then he comes in the summertime. Because, and it also depends on the player. Is he away on international duty or is he the AFCON? Is Kessie?
Yeah, he would be for the Ivory Coast, I believe.
Ivory Coast.
No.
So he's there. So even if Spurs was to buy him, he would be, and depending on how long they play for, he will be back until February. And I think it's up to Kessie as well, the player, because he might say to himself, right, I can get a contract and get a fee, or I can just wait till the end of the season and get a sign-on fee.
Yeah.
So I think either or. Again, I think Spurs should make a bid for him. If it's up to the player, though, and that's the thing. It would be a good player. Did watch some highlights of him and everything, and I think he is that kind of guy who's can do both. Box to box, he's good passer of the ball. He's very composed and things. And I do think that if Spurs want him, though, make a bid. If it's accepted, load him back to AC Milan, and summertime it gives them a chance to get rid of like a couple of players, because that's the thing that a lot of Spurs fans don't realize. Spurs have a full squad, the full 26. And they have, I think it's 16 overseas players. So in order to bring anyone in, they have to get rid of a couple of overseas players. So if Ndombele gets loaned out to PSG, then I could see Spurs go for Kessie then. So yeah, I think it's definitely a thing they should do. And I was thinking the same with the striker for Fiorentina. Buy him and then loan him back to Fiorentina for the rest of the year and see what that would work, instead of bringing them all in for January.
Look, we ain't signing Vlahovic. You think Levy is going to stump up 70 fucking million for Vlahovic, 80 million? There's not a fear of it. Not
Well,
a
I
fair.
think. Well, it's not. It's euros.
I mean, honestly, look, we sit here and debate over €5 million at times on other transfers. We honestly think he's going to pull 75, 80 million out of the bag to go and sign Vlahovic.
Well,
Pay 60 for Ndombele.
It's euros as well. So basically, what Fiorentina are looking for is 66. Arsenal bid for 66 million as well. So I think, and Livy's not in charge of the transfers. Paratici, who's in charge of the transfers. That's a lot of fans aren't realizing. Yes, and the players that Spurs are getting, they're not going for like Coutinho or Luis Diane or any players like that. They're going for players who are young enough, and all those players are top players, and they'll want to wait and see because they want to play in the Champions League, and that's just the bottom line. So I think, like, I understand the frustration for Spurs fans, but we're going for top players who don't want to play, in the Europa League. They want to play in the Champions League. They want to come to a club that's going to finish, who are going to be in top four and challenging for the title. So I think those two. I think the big signings that a lot of Spurs fans want really do depends if Spurs get in the top four this year. I do think that Paratici should reach out to AC Milan and say, listen, we'll buy him, but you can keep him to the end of the season. But I don't know if that will make... Go ahead.
Sorry. I just want to jump on the back of that, mate, because you actually... Something I wanted to say later when it was the right time, but you just made I think it's a fantastic point that Tottenham are in this kind of like whatever the opposite of a Goldilocks zone is, right? Mm-hmm. This limbo where the only way we can break into the top four is by improving the squad to get players that are of a certain ilk.
Yeah.
But until you can offer them what they want, and pay them the wages and take them from clubs that don't want to lose them, like Tottenham have nothing to offer them right now.
Yeah.
And it's very difficult to identify those players with the Levy transfer strategy that he has when you can't offer them the Champions League. So I personally think that the next 6-7 years of Tottenham's success is largely dependent on what happens in the next 3 months or 4 months.
Yeah, for sure.
If we make top four, then we could have an absolute amazing summer. Like we could probably, maybe Daniel Levy, then he's got the revenues coming in from a full stadium. The debt's getting paid down. We're 4 years into that project of paying down the debt. There would be money available. Plus you've got the revenue from the Champions League, the increased media rights, all of that stuff, which is super lucrative. And you've got a team that needs to be rebuilt, and you'll have players that are looking at the best facilities, best training, best stadium, best manager in the world. Suddenly, Tottenham are a very appealing option in a footballing world where financially a lot of clubs are still struggling. But if we don't make it into the top four this season, then Tottenham once again are going to be a team that can only offer subpar opportunities to players who we need to get us into the realms that we all want to see.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
It's a really difficult quandary. And in January, you can't find those players naturally anyway because those teams don't want to sell. So you have to kind of gamble and just fingers crossed, bollocks crossed, everything crossed that Conte can get some magic out of the club. And Manchester United struggled, and Arsenal collapsed, West Ham collapsed, and all our competition. You haven't got to be the best. You just got to be the best of a bad bunch, right? Like if the other players fall apart, then we can finish fourth by default. Everything can change if we get top four. If we don't, I think we're going to have 2-3 more years of disappointment.
Yeah, just to add another thing, I was looking at, because obviously transfer and hearing Livy out and everything else, and spend big, but if you look at the over the last 5 years, Eriksen cost 12 million. Eriksen was 11 million. Dembele was 12 million. So the best player for Spurs hasn't been 70 million or 80 million. And as a Spurs fan, do I want to be in a Man United position where I'm spending 75 million for a player who's sitting on the bench, when I'm spending 40 million for a guy sitting on the bench? He can't even get on, Van der Beek, and it's a case of, Chelsea, they have waste. If you look at the demographic of those big clubs, because yes, Spurs fans were thinking, oh, Levy doesn't spend, but those big clubs have, they spend money, 80 million, Lukaku coming back, 90 million for him, and he wants to now leave. So do Spurs want players who, because you can spend a lot of money in big players, but it doesn't necessarily mean they'll work out.
But you're not arguing your own point then, because you were talking about going to sign a Vlahovic a few minutes ago.
Yes, but I don't think Vlahovic is going to cost 80 million. I think,
but he is.
He's not. That's the Euros. If you look at what Arsenal bid 55 and 66 million,
and it was rejected.
Yes, it was rejected because Vlahovic wants to wait till the summer so he can get him for free. So if Spurs wait till the summer,
he won't go for free. His contract is in 2023.
Well, doesn't run out at the end of this.
Runs
it's
out in
next year.
2023.
Next year. Well, if that's the case, I think Spurs will bid. I don't think I've watched Vlahovic. I've watched him, watched a couple of games, and personally, I don't think he'd do well in the Premiership. I think he would be injured. He hasn't got the build. He's not a speed merchant, and I do think that it would be a huge gamble to bring him in, even for 66 or 70 million. I think that's another player if Spurs was to bring in, and all the fans will hope. I don't think he'd make it in Premiership. I think he's not right now. Maybe in a couple of years when he's got a bit grown. But I did watch him, and I thought the first thing I was thinking is like, no way, he's not gonna, not gonna make it in the Premiership. That's my opinion.
We'll move on from Vlahovic because he's definitely not coming to Tottenham anyway, so it's definitely not happening. So let's get back to Kessie. Jack, Kessie, Veretout, or whatever you want to call him. Similar sort of players in my eyes. Box to box, energetic, can do defensively and attacking side of the games. Is Kessie better than Veretout, Jack?
Yeah, I mean, by a country mile, he's better than Veretout. I think the reason why I kind of, tried to explain Veretout, he would be like a much cheaper version, I guess, of Kessie. But at the same time, I guess since Kessie is definitively going to be going on a free this summer, or might go for a fee this winter if AC Milan accept it, he technically would be probably around the same amount of money you would probably take to, sign Veretout away from Roma when you think about it, because you probably throw in maybe if you wanted to get Kessie right now and actually have him in the Spurs squad come February, you probably need to throw in something like a 15 million pound bid to a 20 million pound bid to get him away from the club. And then you're able to pay whatever wages he wants as well, which are probably going to be quite large when you think about it. But I guess since we're used to Tanguy being on 200K, it probably wouldn't be that daunting for us what he might ask for. But he probably will be, Dave. I think Kessie by country mile would be better than Veretout. I think he is kind of worth almost any fee, especially since you don't have to consider astronomical fees in order to get him in. He's practically worth probably any sort of pursuit. We might touch on this guy later, but we could also compare him to Weston McKennie as another sort of box to box kind of destroying sort of midfielder that basically just does it all. I think that's what describes those sort of players, is that they kind of just do a bit of everything, and that is what kind of makes them so highly valued and so highly praised. Whereas with Kessie, though, if I were to compare him to like someone like McKennie, I'd much rather have Kessie. I feel like he's definitely more proven on kind of the bigger scale. He's played really well in big matches as well, especially in the Champions League he has, and as well as the Europa League. I feel like I personally, Dave, would take him for any sort of fee, especially since he is going on a free. But I don't know. I think the Jordan Veretout thing, I guess he would be that sort of alternative in case we don't get McKennie or Kessie. He'd just be that cheaper, maybe just kind of box to box alternative, but Kessie over everything.
Yeah, well, look, we'll get on to Weston McKennie in a minute. It's one I don't see happening, to be honest with you. But just on Kessie, I take Paul Markey's super chat now. He says, you were on Matt Hayes' you were on earlier on Matt Hayes', you were lukewarm on Kessie. Crazy, he's a division or two better than what we have and most playing in the Premier League. Deal has to be done. Yeah, do you know why? Because I want a deep-lying playmaker. We already have Højbjerg and Skip. In terms of what I want from January going towards the end of the season, what I think will be a massive difference between Spurs winning more games than not is a deep-lying playmaker, someone that can link the defence to the attack. And that's me, in my opinion, that's what we need. Whether we can go and get one this window, it remains to be seen. Probably not. But it seems to be clear that we are looking at box-to-box midfielders. If we are looking at box-to-box midfielders, yeah, look, I wouldn't turn down Kessie. But I don't know. I'm just not his biggest fan. Look, I know what he offers. I done the thing with Jack, but I don't know. I'm just not convinced. I don't know what it is. I'm just not 100% convinced. I would prefer a deep-lying playmaker, Paul Markey. But big yourself up, man. And I see what people are saying. He would definitely come in. He would add stuff. Is he better than Højbjerg and Skip? Maybe, probably. I don't know. Look, maybe some of you guys out there think he would. Then maybe he comes in and starts ahead of one of them. Remains to be seen. He'd probably definitely start ahead of Weeks anyway, that's for sure. But big up Paul Markey, my man, and really appreciate the support. Yeah, Shawnee?
I just want to be the first to drop a piece of news that I don't know what it means, but it's a dropping your man Matt Hayes has just dropped a tweet saying, with a meme saying, "So you'll better strap in." So some sort of he must know something. He's the in the know that must know something about something to do with Tottenham Hotspur, because he's saying there's some big news coming.
I think I might have a fair idea what it's along the line of. I'm going to text him. I won't be able to tell you what it is, but I am going
Why not? You have to. You have to tell us.
You
can't say that.
I'll find out.
President Martin Luther King did that. I have a dream, everyone, but I don't want to tell you about it.
I'm very interested to see what's happening, because I mean, there's a lot going on, and we will touch on some of the Spurs players in a minute that may be heading towards the exit. But I do want to get through two more transfer rumors here quickly with Jack before we head on players maybe heading for the exit, where we can all have a say on it again. Jack, Diego Carlos is one. There was an unknown London club who put in a bid tonight for this guy. Now, I was told earlier on that it wasn't Tottenham Hotspur, but according to reports, Tottenham it's claimed that it was Tottenham Hotspur that put in a bid for this guy. Look, Jack, he's described as a powerful Brazilian, great in the air, loves a physical battle, and is also comfortable in possession. Maybe a bit like Romero, that sounds like to me. Since moving to Spain from Nantes in 2019, Carlos has become one of the league's most consistent defenders, according to this report, and played a key part in helping Sevilla win the Europa League in 2020. Look, there are other clubs around Europe interested. AC Milan is one of them, notably from Serie A. But look, we have been told that Tottenham probably would be looking at a centre-back. So, Jack, is this a guy that maybe you see coming in? Is he good enough? Is he basically what I want to ask? Is he another Davinson Sanchez sort of player, Ben Davies sort of player, Dyer sort of player? Is this guy going to walk into our defence and make an instant impact?
Defensively, it's hard for me to answer that, because I feel like everybody has said, he is a bit rash defensively and can, is prone to an error. If you're talking about actually passing though, Dave, as an actual ball playing sort of center back or ball carrying center back, I feel like he actually would offer something that a lot of our center backs don't. He'd be a much better player on the ball than someone like Sanchez. I'm not going to make the argument that maybe he'd be a better defender than Sanchez, but I think he'd be a lot better on the ball than someone like a Sanchez or a Joe Rodon. Or, a Tanganga as well. I mean, Dave, I think, he completes something like some of the most long passes in like all of Europe to a degree. Like he completes like something like over 12 passes per 90 or something that are long. He plays alongside Jules Koundé, who I actually think is the best passer of any center back in world football. He plays in for a Sevilla team that do really rely on their center backs to be able to be good passers of the ball. He's not very tall, though, so he would be around, I think, like Tanganga's height. So that could maybe be a bit of a concern. He's not too bad in the air. I actually think he's quite decent in the air. I've seen him actually win a header for a corner to actually go ahead in the Europa League at stages before. Part of that really good Europa League Sevilla winning side that Reguilón was a part of. Diego Carlos was a huge part in that sort of team. So maybe the one thing he could offer, Dave, is being a much better passer of the ball than probably the majority of our center backs actually right now. Maybe he could play in the middle of a back three, instead of Eric Dyer or something like that. But defensively, I'm not so convinced, but at least passing the ball, I'm very, very convinced by him.
No, absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. So look, it'd be interesting to see whether Spurs do put in that bid for him or not. It'd be very, very interesting. Paul Markey says Kessie is that and more. No, look.
He loves Kessie. He loves Kessie.
Do you know what? Me and Paul often find ourselves on different sides of these transfer things, But look, do you know what, Paul? I'm going to take your word on this one. I'm going to take a leap of faith, and I'm going to take your word on this one, my man. I'm going to trust you. Big yourself up, man. Big yourself up. And Fix Enbo 2K21.
Fix NBA
2K21. Start following
2K21.
Spurs on Instagram today. Interesting. Very interesting. Very, very, very interesting. We'll wait and see. And then Ellie with the super sticker, Jacko. Do you know what it is?
It seems to be a bird jumping up and down, laughing, actually, saying, ha, 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 ha. Maybe she's just laughing at some of the opinions. Maybe she's laughing at the transfers. Maybe she's laughing at the idea of Levy spending money. She could be laughing at a lot of things that probably have been said, by all of us probably before. Ellie, she's just having a good old time. Really nice and really appreciate support. I do like it, though. She picks a lot of different sort of stickers that I haven't seen before. So, Ellie, big yourself up. I think she's probably just laughing at the idea of Daniel Levy even signing any of these players that we mentioned. But as well, Dave, I believe Danny Kiriakou is celebrating 11 months. It's kind of made a bit of a call out of Oren, I will be honest. So maybe just get yourself ready here. Says, Mr. Spurs, you're a top man, brother.
1 second. Hold that. I want to get Winston McKennie out of the way. That's all the other transfers.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
Incoming out of the way,
Feel
and then
free.
we'll move on to that. Danny, just give me 1 minute, my man. So Jack, we'll stick with you on this one, and then we'll go for the super chat. Or actually, after this one, I have one quick thing to say on all the youngsters we're linked with, and then we'll get to that. But Jack, rumors today linking us with Weston McKennie. Of course, he is American, plays for the American national team. Fabrizio Romano has also kind of brought this up today, that Tottenham are interested. But interesting enough, he has found himself in the Juve team.
Yeah.
Of course, Paratici knows him from his time as sporting director or managing director of football at Juve as well. Jack, do you think this is a potential deal that could maybe happen, or do you think this is maybe Weston McKennie getting in the team, maybe perhaps looking for a new contract?
I don't think he's looking for a new contract because he did just sign from Schalke, actually, not basically last season.
He was on loan last year, wasn't he?
Yeah, but I think, that means his contract is probably expiring in like 2024, 2025. So I really would doubt that he'd be signing a new contract. I think what's surprising, Dave, is he actually had a bit of kind of I forget which player. He almost kind of had like a Jack Grealish sort of situation where he was violating COVID protocols like quite seriously over in Turin at one stage. And then as well, I think, he kind of had some issues at one, moment where just he kind of is known as not really a great player off the field. But he is actually an exceptional player on the field, I will say. He is actually very, very good at getting up and down the pitch, can be very, very creative in certain areas of the pitch as well. He's kind of the definition, if not the ethos, of a box-to-box sort of player. He can honestly pop up with a goal here and there as well. He can actually get really stuck in. At one stage at Schalke, even, Dave, I do remember him even playing almost like as a middle center back of like a back three. He was that kind of versatile as a player. But so far for Juve, he's playing a bit further forward and is kind of playing as a box-to-box sort of ball-winning midfielder. Would I pick him over Kessie is probably a good way to maybe describe it. I would probably rather go after Kessie than Weston McKennie, but I certainly wouldn't turn up my nose at Weston McKennie. I think he's a great player. The issue is that similar to Kessie, it's probably really hard to prize away from his club. And Kessie's, point, it's because he's going after a title with AC Milan. He's already on 6 months as it is. He's going to be finishing out his contract there, and maybe he wants that big payday, so it'd be hard to kind of lure him away now. Whereas with McKennie, he's now kind of getting back into the squad over at Juve, and I do believe actually Allegri, honestly, the beautifully Italian spoken manager. I do love his Italian at stages as well. I feel like he's, starting to take a liking to Weston McKennie all of a sudden. And that means that Weston McKennie's featuring a lot more, which would then mean that it's probably even harder than it was before to even get him away from Juve. And they, like I said, to a degree, they still just signed him. And so if they start to take a liking to him again, be really hard to imagine us getting him. So I'd rather us pursue Kessie, just because I like him more, and he'd probably actually be weirdly easier to pursue maybe than Weston McKennie.
Yeah, no, 100%. But look, what I will say is, I'd say we're definitely in the hunt in the market for a midfielder. That's what I would say. But yeah, honestly, absolutely love it, Jack. So look, what I would say is maybe I would expect a midfielder coming in, a Kessie, a Veretout, a Weston McKennie. Look, I can't say too much, but what I can say is we're linked with one going out and one coming in. Nothing set in stone yet, but behind the scenes, we'll wait and see. Hope. Look, we need transfers in regardless. Anyway, we need transfers in regardless. People are asking what Matty is saying. Look, I told you, I can't tell you. I cannot tell you. I'm not doing that on Matty, boys. I'm not doing it, so you can forget about it. If you want to know, what it is, go and ask Matty, see if he'll tell you.
You big tease.
But look, what I will say to people out there is we are being linked with a lot of youngsters right now. There was a youngster from Celtic the other day, that youngster Spence from Nottingham Forest. There was a couple of strikers we've been linked with. And what I will say is I don't think they'll be coming in January, but keep an eye on them coming in the summer, because I remember bringing this up in the Kinnicky Answer Me, and I brought it up because I thought it would be something that a lot of people skipped over. But it's that guy Chris Perkins that we signed. He is in charge of bringing in all the young talent across Europe, from 16 up until under 21s, I think it is. and he's in charge of getting in a lot of top talent from around Europe. So I think that's why you're seeing all of these links. Plus, we're overhauling the scouting department as well.
Yep.
And we've already seen some deals done in the underage teams, with some being released, some brought in, like that guy from I think it was Southend or something like that. I think we brought in another one from some other club in the lower leagues into the youth system. And I think that as this guy Chris Perkins starting to maybe work his magic, because it's what he was brought in to do. He was brought in to bring in the talent, but then also when they get here, develop them, look at them. Do they need a loan? Do they need to go elsewhere? And then he's in charge of looking after it. Sean's writing it down. Chris Perkins is his name, Johnny, if you want to look into it. So I think that's why you're seeing a lot of these links to youngsters. I definitely don't believe they'll be brought in this window, but I'd say we're looking at them potentially bringing them in the summer period, or between now and the summer, maybe trying to get a couple of deals done. But look, moving on, Jacko, unleash Danny Kiriakou super
We have
chat.
2 member milestones to go over. 2 member milestones. First one is from Danny Kiriakou saying, Mr. Spurs, you're a top man, brother, but your views are insane. I thought bloody Sean Levy was bad. Don't worry, lads. Levy will do you proud and not spend a penny.
Oh, he's thrown me under the bus as well.
Yeah, I was just going to say.
I thought I was going to sit back and let Danny have a go. Just no, he's having a crack at me as well.
No, he's gone for the double crack here, boys. So maybe one of you can take him on. I guess he's basically just saying, he respects you guys, but he's thinking your views are insane. That I guess Levy will even sign a player. Do you guys maybe think, to answer quickly, both of you? Maybe I'll start with Oren first. Oren, do you feel like Levy will make a signing this window?
Well, Levy's not making the signings as Paratici, so I think Spurs will get in. But I like I said, it's not like Spurs. Some Spurs fans think like because after playing FIFA, it's about trading gold coins. It's not like that. Transfer. It's about getting the right player in, paying wages. If that player wants to come to Spurs, there's a whole lot of facet, because if Spurs were going, it's really mystifying, because Spurs fans want big players, but yet they're saying go and sign Adam Traore. He scored yesterday, and that was his first goal in 28 games. So it's like, okay. And the players that Spurs want, it's going to take time for them to get in. And I think no more flops, no more spending money just because players, we want to come to Spurs, and Spurs fans went, yeah, bring him in. No more Ndombele. Spurs can't afford to do that. So I do think Veretout is looking for the right player to bring in, who's going to improve the team, who's going to be sustainable for a long period of time. And I think the stick that Spurs fans give Levy and everyone else, and I've said it before, Spurs haven't won trophies. They haven't won the Champions League. They've got knocked out. If you're a top player, what is the reason for you to come to Spurs? Just because you like their kit? So the players that Spurs are going for are top players who will look at Spurs and think, right, if I'm a top player and I see Man City coming for me, or I will use Spurs so that, I can say, well, yeah, I'm considering Spurs, but then Manchester City comes in. So Spurs need players that wants to come to Spurs, for coming to Spurs, to make Spurs better, and not only to make Spurs better, to make themselves better. Because, like I said before, the last transfers have been bought in with players who are just happy enough to sit there, take their wages, go off for their country, playing for Argentina. Lo Celso, for example, doesn't even talk to, apparently, like I remember reading, Lo Celso doesn't even talk to the staff at Spurs. He's very kind of secluded, hasn't made an effort. I don't even know if he can speak English, and he's been in the club for 2 years. Enough of that. I want a player like Eriksen, who came to Spurs over Liverpool for 11 million, and he wanted to be the best, and he became the best. Son Heung-min came to Spurs. He could have gone anywhere else. He came to Spurs and wanted to be the best. So I do think that it's about if that means that Spurs doesn't sign anyone this Johnny transfer window, that's okay by me. The reason why, wait till the summer and get players in that can want to play for Spurs, want to become better, and want to be in a club that's going to grow. And I think even Harry Kane said at the end of last season, how there wasn't enough players who want to be the best. And we were looking at that and thinking, right, why isn't there? Because these players are getting paid big wages. No more Ndombele, no more Lo Celso. Get players in, like I said, he wants to be the best. And that's why I've always been optimistic with the transfer that Spurs have made. Because, like I said, I'd rather have no transfers than have spent 70 million or even 60 million on Ndombele and he's going to go off to PSG. Think about this. Ndombele's not good enough to be in a Spurs team, but there's a good chance he might go to PSG, play in the Champions League, and probably win the title, with them. And then go, I don't want to come back to Spurs. So there's enough, spending that's been done. Look at Paul Pogba, 80 million or higher. And look what he's done for United. So I believe that.
Look at Jack Grealish.
Yeah, 100 million.
The next Dele Alli. And everyone in the Levy out brigade, I saw someone say about Bruno, the £5 million thing is the Bruno example.
Look at him now.
He's referring that to the Adama Traore one, and you can't argue that is true.
The same people that reference Bruno Fernandes now are the same people that a year ago were referencing Jack Grealish as an example number 2 of the £5 million thing that Levy didn't want to pay. And I always reference there was 19 other Premier League clubs who also didn't value Jack Grealish at the value that Aston Villa put on him when he was in the Championship. He eventually went to Manchester City for £100 million, and they've got a bigger waste of money than Ndombele on their hands. Now, it might be different for Manchester City, but it's interesting how people always conveniently forget that Jack Grealish is suddenly no longer worth mentioning. But it was 3 months ago when I first started doing this stuff with you, the Jack Grealish thing was through the comments non-stop. It's convenience. And I think to Oren's point, right, like there's more to a transfer than just, we want to sign him, he's valued at this much, go get him. And if we don't, Daniel Levy's a tightwad. Right? Players don't necessarily want to come and play for the club. Even if Daniel Levy was to go and get him, or was to be able to go and get him, players don't always want to come to us unless we can offer them what we currently can't. And the other thing I point out is, I said this before, you can't overlook the £1 billion investment. And Dave, I remember you mentioning a little while ago, you can't use the COVID excuse because Daniel Levy went and got £150 million interest-free loan, or basically interest-free loan from the government.
To cover the running costs, so we didn't incur any losses.
But it's still
we can't use it as an excuse because we covered the losses, so we can't.
It's still a loan. It's not like the money that was just it's just a fairy that comes along and says, here's 150 million.
Yeah, at 0.5% interest, and it doesn't have to pay it back straight away.
But you still have to pay it back, right? You still have to pay that back. So that money that we
over
lost,
years, but that's over years, Sean, but that has covered our losses over the pandemic. So it hasn't covered the losses. The losses are still there. It's just moving them from there's no money coming in. Here's a loan for 150 million that now, you've got 150 million, but that still has to come up. That you still have to pay that back alongside the interest on a £1 billion loan, right? That when it's how many years does that loan have to be paid?
To 21 years left on it. I think 22
Okay, so we're going to be punished now for a loan that has to be paid over 21 years. Is that what we're saying?
It's a lot of money, mate. It's the interest alone. The interest alone on £1 billion is even at 2%.
Do you know what gets me? Do you know what gets me though, Sean? You and Mr. Spurs, we're sitting here talking about not spending money on players, but a few minutes ago you were talking about going big in the transfer window.
No, hang on. I actually want to get that point as well. The other thing I wanted to point out, just on Danny's text, when people think that Tottenham haven't spent money, like Daniel Levy's a tightwad. Six of the current first team 11 have been signed in the last 2.5 years. We are going through a rebuild. They're not necessarily world class, but you've got Emerson Royale at right wing back, who was signed in the last 2.5 years. Reguilon was a record signing for the last 2.5 years. Sanchez, another club record signing in the last 2.5 years. Ndombele, the next club record signing. Now he might be shepherded out, but until 2 weeks ago, he was a first team player. You can also obviously Kane come through the youth system. Hugo Lloris was before that. Sun was before that, but. Even Pierre-Emile Højbjerg, he was only 2.5 years ago. So when people say that Tottenham are not spending money, half of the first team was signed in the last 2.5 years, all while also paying off a £1 billion debt on a football club, whilst also remaining profitable over a 5-year period.
We can't use half the first team as an excuse because half of the first team is not good enough.
But they are the first team.
Sorry. What I don't believe that whatsoever. What I meant to say is, what you're saying about bringing these players that create half the first team, that's true. But they're the reason why we had to do it in the first place. They're chasing their tails.
What do you mean they're the reason we have to do it? You have to read a squad teams. Everything in life goes through periods, transitional periods. We're in a long one. It's definitely a long one. But I'm not this. I don't actually disagree with any of you guys, anything you're saying. But when Danny's saying like, you know, the Levy out, that's a staunch kind of I'm embedded in the Levy out thing. I think they just ignore or forget certain realities. And I love Danny. Do Danny. I love him to pieces. He's a superstar of a guy. But I feel like he you know, there's echo chambers where people like hear the same thing over and over again from influential voices, and they get embedded. They don't hear the other. They're not reminded as often of the truth and the reality as they are about the things that they want to hear. And so this, I don't know if I'm sounding, I hope I'm not sounding aggressive, but I'm sounding animated because I feel like people need to be reminded of the reality that we are spending money. We have spent money. We've bought 3 or 4 record signings in the last 2.5 years that Tottenham haven't done before, all while staying frugal. And I don't want to get off the topic, but on February the 1st, when people say like throw money, like the cure for all our ails is to throw more and more money at a solution. I'm going to break down for you guys when we're doing the comparisons, what happened to Burnley when Burnley had a wonderful owner who wasn't spending the money that Burnley wanted, and then these nice American guys came in and said, we'll do it for you. But if Burnley get relegated, Burnley are finished as a football club. If Everton get relegated, they are finished as a football club. Newcastle, who knows what's going to happen there, right? But like, there's for every example of a club, of an owner that comes in and throws money at things where it works, like Man City or Chelsea, there's 4 or 5 times more examples of clubs where people have thrown money at it and it's gone tits up. Throwing money at a problem doesn't solve a problem.
And do you know what? I hear you about the throwing money. But was it not the club making the sounds? Because Alistair Gold has sources from the club. Now, is it not the club telling us fans that they're going big in the summer? So they're telling us themselves that they're throwing money at it.
Well, when was that?
It's been reported all this January transfer window that we're going to go big in the summer.
It's been reported. It's been reported, right?
Well, Alistair Gold is ties with the club.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'll hand over to you now. The biggest thing that I want to get off, I'm not Levy out. I'm certainly not Levy in, but I'm not Levy out. But what I actually would highly recommend that Daniel Levy does, I'm Levy shout. Like, I want him to communicate. I want him to do what the Aston Villa guy does, right? Who comes in and says, this is what we've done with Steven Gerrard. This is what it means to the fans. This is why Coutinho comes. He's a hug round. All the things that are the noises. If Daniel Levy was to take a little bit more respect for people and say, here's the plan from the horse's mouth, or it doesn't have to be from him. If he's not a good communicator, then get a PR man in who can talk to the club, talk to the supporters trust. Somebody, but they can come out and say, this is the plan. Now, we can't go into details because we don't want to lay our cards out for everyone to know. But essentially, this is the plan of action for Tottenham over the next 5 years. We know there needs to be rebuilds in the squad, but because of our debt obligations, because of this, because of that, unfortunately, things are tough. But they won't be. Just talk. Tell us, because otherwise you're left, all the fans are left open to influence from people that want to have narratives or clickbait agendas from newsreels that are just trying to get attention, that make stories up, and people will have confirmation bias. People will see a headline, and if it suits the narrative, they'll believe it's fact, and if it doesn't, they'll dismiss it as theory. And it's dangerous, it's silly, and it can it's negative. It creates division. It's negative. So I think that what Daniel Levy needs to do more than just open his checkbook is communicate with the fans through however what you want to do it. But tell us what the fucking plan is, Daniel. Because otherwise, it's all open to interpretation.
Just quick.
Yeah, go on.
Sorry.
This Levy thing, because we will be getting into it. I just want to finish
just really quickly.
I'm done with the rant now. Sorry.
Yeah,
I know you're out. Go, please.
Since Poch got sacked after the Champions League final, Spurs haven't been in the Champions League for 3 seasons, and they've spent 292 million worth on players. So to say that Daniel Levy hasn't spent, or club hasn't spent, it's not accurate. They have spent close to 300 million on players, and not even in the Champions League, not even winning anything. And that's the thing. It's like the Chelseas and the Man City. They can afford to spend big because they actually win trophies. They win the Champions League. Spurs haven't won anything. And that, last thing here, like I'm going to do a video about this whole, Daniel Levy cares more about profit than glory. It's illogical. It doesn't make any sense because glory brings profit. The more glorious a club has, the more profit they have. So as a businessman...
But Aaron, the thing is, it does make sense because we can spend up to 400 million and not break financial fair plays because we've made profit over the last decade. So it's not a made fact.
Yes, but that's what I'm saying. How did Daniel Levy make that profit? Because Spurs won the Champions League and they were finishing in the Champions League and they got to the final. They haven't in the last 3 seasons. So they can spend that amount of money. Now, it's bringing in players. Like I said, do Spurs want an Adam Traore? He doesn't give a damn. Like he's just about, I don't care. As long as I look good in a T-shirt and I'm oiled up, that's fine. Or do Spurs want to bring in a player who says, I want to get this club to the Champions League? That's what I want to do. So I'm just thinking it's not easy to bring in the type of players that Spurs want. We don't want Mickey Mouse players. We want proper professional players. So it's a lot more difficult.
Then why do we get 7 Mickey Mouse players then? Well, not 7. We
got
2 under Jose Mourinho. Why if we want Mickey Mouse players, why did we make our budget spend over 7 players?
Well, to answer that, I think that's a very negative thought that's been pushed by the media. If Spurs are so,
it's not being pushed by the media. It's what I've seen with my own eyes.
Yes, that's what you think. But if you look at Spurs,
we'll break it down. Joe Hart gone. So therefore, that's confirmation that it didn't work out. Doherty won good game last night, but has been shit up until then. So that's confirmation.
Right.
Sessegnon been loaned out and everything else since. So that's more confirmation.
Joe Rodon.
And this goes on. So them players, Joe Rodon. So them 7 players, they haven't actually worked out. And we're talking about not getting any Mickey Mouse players. But really, we have got a Mickey Mouse players. And it's not my opinion. It's fact because it's what I'm seeing on the football pitch.
Okay, so let me answer you this. Break those players. Joe Hart came and he was never going to be the number 1 keeper. So he left. He was brought in by Josie for a backup. So it's not like he came to be a professional to overthrow Lloris. Ryan Sessegnon has had good games. He's been injured. Joe Rodon has been injured. He hasn't got his opportunities. And they're young. It's not like Spurs have went out and bought
Joe Rodon's 24.
Yes, but he's still young and he's had his injuries. Spurs didn't go out and spend 50 million on him. And if this Spurs team is so bad, then what does that mean? Does that mean that the Premiership is worse? Because Spurs are 1 point behind West Ham. So I think this whole narrative of Spurs squad is bad and they're rubbish and everything, I think that's just been drummed in. And again, like the frustrations, but Spurs didn't come from a club that was winning Premiership and titles after titles after titles. And then Levy came in and they stopped doing that. Spurs never won anything. So Levy and Enoch will get Spurs to a level where they're competing in the Champions League and competing for trophies and winning them. And that's what Spurs
winning teams, Mr. Spurs, and I think when to say we don't win anything is not true because we have a history. Let's not forget that.
Right. So before Levy came in and Enoch came in, Spurs won what? The FA Cup and the League Cup.
But then how can we be in financial crisis under Alan Sugar, but yet still go and win a trophy? But we can't now.
What was that trophy? What was that trophy? What was it?
FA Cup.
FA Cup. Yeah.
Come on.
Okay. What have we won under Daniel Levy?
The League Cup.
Yeah.
Okay, so what?
It's the same thing. So what I'm saying is,
bankrupt. That's my point.
But what I'm saying is, it's not like Spurs were like I supported Spurs during that time, and I, as a kid, every time I went to school on the Monday morning, I was laughed at because Spurs were terrible. They got thrashed by Man City or Man United 6-1 or whatever, and getting to the League Cup final was the hope. But if we want as fans to progress, we have to be higher than that. And it's Jose Mourinho even said it. He says Spurs have this mentality where they just do not believe in themselves. And it's not just the players, it's the whole fan base. It's like, we won't win anything because we're rubbish. Just accept it. And that's the case. Under Pochettino, Spurs got close but didn't win anything. And that's the key. Like, I would understand, like I said before, if Spurs were winning titles, finishing in the top 4 every single season. But they haven't been, and that's what we have to look at. And it's like I said before, I think this whole narrative of Spurs being bad and rubbish, it's just not true. I think Spurs are.
Well, we finished 8th last season in the Europa Conference League, and we had to ship out 8 players since then.
Under Alan Sugar, we finished. Under the 10 years of Alan Sugar, we had an average finishing position of 12.6. Under Daniel Levy, we had an average finishing position of 6.2.
Okay, so let me make my point. Right. Average finishing position under Alan Sugar, what did you say? 12?
12.6 and 6.2 under Daniel Levy.
Okay, so 6.2 under Levy. Now, look at the budget we had to work under Alan Sugar compared to Levy. One cup and the FA Cup is better than what Levy's pulled in. So
Yeah, but the level of competition, because when Alan Sugar was in charge, Chelsea wasn't big, Man City wasn't big, Liverpool weren't that big. But now they are. Chelsea have had investment.
But there were other clubs back then that were big. It may not be the same.
The golf has expanded though, Dave. You have to admit it's harder now to win a cup.
It's a lot harder now
than it was
get
then.
Because back then, even Arsenal
No, but the thing is, my point is, we can't sit here and say we haven't won trophies and stuff like that.
But
and then I turn around
haven't.
and say, well, we won one under Alan Sugar, the same as what we have under Daniel Levy.
Yeah.
We were in a financial situation.
No, we won two. We won two under Sugar. We won the 91 Cup and we won 99. I take your point entirely that our cup form is absolutely dog shit under Daniel Levy. 100%. I take that point on board. But I do think it's harder. I think like to reflect purely on successes under certain periods, you have to also consider the context of what were the competition doing. I mentioned this point before, 85% of all cups that have been won in the last 20 years were won by 5 clubs. The same 5 clubs that still win them every year now, right? This like Man City, United, Arsenal, Chelsea, and Liverpool.
Do you not think it would have been the same back then though, Sean? Let's be realistic.
No, it's not. It's actually not. I haven't got the number to hand, but I've actually looked into it. Back in the day, there was a bit more of a spread of clubs. I think I take your point. Like the cups are important to Tottenham fans and to myself massively. I love cup football, so I take your point that Tottenham are underachieving in the cups. And my point specifically is that Tottenham, and when it comes to the Levy thing, it's when people say that Tottenham are like a shit show. We're so underachieving, and it's Daniel Levy's fault. I actually think that we're consistently better now than we have been for the previous 3 chairmen. I don't know what it was like before Irving Scholar. Tottenham Tantrum Gold guys, they obviously reflect highly on those kind of years, 30, 40 years ago. I wasn't around then, so I don't know what it was like to be. And my dad was, and my dad thinks I'm a moron for being so Levy in. Like he's in the Levy out brigade. My dad tells me I should shut the fuck up. But I just got to come at it with my opinion, and the statistics that I look at will show a team that is generally in the ascendancy. It's been a few years of backward steps since the Champions League final. But anyway, sorry, man, we're derailing the conversation, Dave. I do apologise, guys.
No.
That's all good. It's all good.
Look, we'll take this super chat on and then we'll move on.
Yeah.
Jacko, was there another one of the memberships?
Yes, it was Dermot, and let me get back to it. Dermot was, you do Richard Black Dogs, then we'll do Dermot's because I need to catch up to it. I need to go back to Dermot's. Sorry. Dermot says, I did find it just now. Dermot says, thank you all for all you've done for us and everyone during this COVID-19. You are both gentlemen. Big up and come on, you Spurs, from Dermot. That's what it is. Dermot, really appreciate it, brother. Big yourself up, my man. Really do appreciate the absolute goat that he is. That's been around the Harris Army ever since probably the foundation of it. He's been here since the beginning, and he is celebrating his gold month membership. So big yourself up, Dermot. Also really appreciate the big one earlier and always the continued support that you do show. And everybody do check out Tottenham Tantrum Gold, please, because it is basically where this sort of, I would say, rhetoric is about maybe why Spurs should be considered more of kind of a powerhouse team, as well as a team that does have more history than sometimes I would say fans my age would even actually realize. So Dermot, big yourself up, my man. And Richard Black Dog here saying Enoch splashing out on building a cinema and new homes investment is a concern. Shows they are only interested in property and not players, Dave.
Jack, just on that quickly though, like that news that came out this week that they have planning permission, that's not the same as saying that Tottenham have taken the money and paid for it recently. We owned that property a long time ago. It's just that they've just got planning permission.
Plans to develop it.
Yeah. In terms of reading the room, like, come on, man. Don't announce that shit during January transfer window when you haven't done fuck all. Like, that's going to wind people up. But it's not like we already owned it from a long time back. So it's not quite.
No, spot on. I see some people saying it was Scholar in the chairman in 91. It was Alan Sugar.
I thought it was Alan Sugar.
Alan Sugar took over in 91 with Terry Venables. Just to let whoever's saying it. But Richard Black Dog says Enoch splashing out on building a cinema and new homes. Investment is a concern. Shows they're only interested in property and not players. Yeah, on this one, my man, look, it's like Shawnee was saying, it's just about reading the room. It's just, look, this would have been in the process long before this. It's just come out at the time now that the planning permission has come through and stuff like that. But to let it get out this month, could have held it back to February, is a bit of a bad PR move in my opinion. There's no way of defending it whatsoever, especially with us not signing anyone, Richard, my man. but big yourself up, brother, and really do appreciate the support. Other club news, we'll just get to that quickly.
Yeah.
It is Hugo Lloris has signed a new 2-year contract with Tottenham Hotspur, which is absolutely brilliant. It just means we don't have to use that funds to sign a goalkeeper immediately, where, we can allocate funds elsewhere. As well, Tanguy Ndombele has been heavily linked with a move to PSG, with a loan potential buy to option on that. Look, with Ndombele going to PSG, it's one that might actually work out. He really likes some of them players that are in the French squad. Apparently, Mbappe is really, really good friends with him. And look, all I'd say is keep your eyes on it. Just keep your eyes on this one. He's already turned down the option of joining Napoli. So he has. He's already turned down the option of joining Napoli. I don't know why. I mean, if this guy wants to play football, why don't you take a club that wants to come in for you? But look, by all means, I'm just going to say to people, keep a close eye on this one to PSG. By no means is it a concrete done deal, but there is legs to this, and there is somewhat of a truth to this, by the way.
I think he'll go.
Huh?
I think he'll go. I think he'll excel at PSG. I do think that.
Toxic player, toxic dressing room sounds like a perfect fit.
Yeah, I think like him being French and everything, and playing around players and not having to give us all because PSG are already there. I think that will be his goal. I think that's why he turned down Napoli, because he was waiting for PSG to come in. I think he wants to force a move to go to PSG and play in the Champions League, and and it'll be weird because it's like, again, like I said earlier, a player he can't even get in the Spurs team, but yet he's going to go to PSG and more likely play in the Champions League, and win a title with them, because there's no doubt they'll win the French league. But like I said before, I don't think Ndombele ever wanted to come to Spurs and stay as long as he has. I think it was just a 1 year. So I think hopefully he goes, and it'll be best for everyone, including him, to just get out of England and everything, and then go back to his homeland and just perform there.
Yeah, if he performs, to be honest with you, I don't think the guy has any interest in football anymore. I really don't. I mean, look,
he hasn't been that bad. he hasn't been that bad. Then Dembele's been good in moments, and that's a frustrating thing. We all know. I mean, the goals he scored.
Good enough to say he hasn't been that bad. I mean, he has been that bad. Most managers have isolated. How can we say he hasn't been that bad?
Well, it's his attitude. They haven't isolated him because of his talent. And the frustrating thing for them, for any managers that managed him, is they understand that he's a Balotelli. He's got so much talent, but he doesn't want to listen. And it's like, whatever, I just don't care. And that's come through. And as I said, I think if Spurs were playing in the top four and it was positive, and you'd see Ndombele smiling and getting on the pitch and doing the stuff, but he's not a player that can go into a team that's struggling or looking for leaders and fighters. He's a player that wants to put into a team like PSG, who's already free-flowing. And he can do what he does his tricks, his skills, and everything else, and get praise at the end of it. I don't think he's a type of player who, wants to play a bad game and then gets booed or cheered and everything else. So I think it's just his mentality. He hasn't been dropped because of his talent.
But it's mentality and hard work is 90% of being a professional footballer.
But his mentality would change if he's in France. And it's the same as, like, you got to look at foreign players. Some foreign players just doesn't suit English league, and that's just the bottom line. They suit being in their home countries, and that's just that. Ndombele's just one of those players who, if he's at a club that speaks his own language, he can go out to Paris and socialize. Go to Brazil and have a fiesta with Neymar. He's good. That's what he wants. He doesn't want to be a player who has to work for a club to get them to the top. He doesn't want to be that. So I think, like, I do understand what you're saying about the mentality, but it takes a tough mentality to be in the Premiership, and some players don't have it, no matter how hard they try.
Yeah, no, fair enough. And then the last one is Japhet Tanganga. There is reports with AC Milan that they will prefer that AC Milan are looking to with a loan to buy option for Japhet Tanganga. This is according to the Athletic. Oh no, sorry, not the Athletic. This is according to Calcio Mercato. But the Athletic did report earlier this week that Milan were one of several clubs to have expressed an interest in signing Japhet Tanganga. Again, like I said, wanting a loan with maybe a buy option. But Tottenham, I think if they are going to let him go, they're looking to sell him and not loan him out. They're looking to cash in on him. So, I mean, maybe there could be a deal to be done there with Frank Kessie. Again, like I said, with two clubs wanting a player from each club, this is maybe something we can keep an eye on. But look, we'll keep moving on. I'm just going to go to the Jacks quickly, but I'm just going to set you off into the next part. Tottenham have not sold more than 60,000 tickets for matches since the end of October. Tottenham's attendances in 2021-22. So this is the attendances. We have Man City 58,000, Pacos de Ferreira 30,000, Watford 57,000, Chelsea 60,000, NS Moore 25,000, United 60,000. And then it's Brentford 54,000, Norwich 57,000, Liverpool 45,000, West Ham 40,000, Crystal Palace 40,000, Morecambe 40,000, and Tottenham Chelsea 45,000. So we've been struggling to sell out that stadium that Daniel Levy is banking on all this money from to go towards transfers. So I don't understand how we're supposed to be able to afford transfers when he can't sell out the stadium. But look, why are Tottenham failing to sell out home games? And we'll go to you, Sean, with this first.
So that's a great question.
Could be a combination of factors. Could be,
I think it's COVID. I think COVID certainly. A lot of people are, terrified of catching COVID, and if they are of that mindset, and a lot of people are, then there's no better kind of no better smoldering pot of COVID than a game of football with 50,000 people or 60,000 people in the stand. So I think that's had an impact. I also think the time of year, although I don't know what the comparisons would be, to be honest, I saw the statistics, I've mentioned them on previous shows with you, Jack. So I don't know what, if January or over Christmas is generally a little bit of a dip in attendances relative to the rest of the season, just because it's an expensive time of year. Mm-hmm. I'll also posit that, the cost of living you have to remember that, and I mean this, I don't want this to be a blanket statement, and take it how it's intended, but the people that generally go to football games are, maybe they're of a kind of lower, or like a, they're of a, how do I say this without sounding offensive? I don't mean to in any way, but
lower income. Just say
lower income people, right? And the cost of living raises, like the inflation that's happening around the world. The cost of getting a turkey at Christmas was 30%, 40% higher than it's ever been in the history of turkeys at Christmas, right? So the cost of and inflation is a wealth tax on the poorest people, because the people that can afford everything, like the 7% increase, doesn't affect their living. But when you're barely struggling to make ends meet, the cost of a ticket to Tottenham suddenly, or the cost of a beer or whatever, we're going to talk about that stuff, I'm sure, in a minute, Jack. But all of the cost of inflation that is not a Tottenham thing, it's a global thing, then that hits the people that are more likely to want to go to see Tottenham than not. And so I think that maybe there's a little bit of it that people are getting frustrated with Tottenham, but I actually think that the dip is probably more as a consequence of COVID, Christmas timing, and just the general increase in the cost of living. And so people have less disposable income. So if you have to choose between buying a turkey for Christmas or a present for your child, or going to see Tottenham versus Liverpool, I think everyone's going to make a sensible decision there. I'd like to, and I haven't seen the statistics, but I'd like to know whether or not the same drop is seen at Liverpool, Manchester United, at Arsenal, at Chelsea. And I don't know those. I don't know if anyone does know.
Or if January on average is usually one with less attendance, maybe before.
Is it? Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe that could be the case. I think you brought up some good points there, Sean.
Yeah.
Oren, if you were to answer the same question, why do you feel like there's been a drop in maybe attendance, this January?
I would agree with Sean. I think traveling, COVID, not knowing if matches getting postponed or not. You have to get lateral tests. You have to get vaccinations in. I think a lot of people are just waiting to see what the whole COVID regulation is going to be like. And that's what, especially January and things, and majority of fans who go, it's not a simple case of just turning up at the stadium. They have to get traveling, and everything's increased. And like I said, with the whole COVID restrictions and everything, getting buses or trains or anything. I mean, the last game, the only ever game I went to was Watford when Spurs played at Wembley. And it was my first time, and I like just walking down that Wembley archway, as big as it was. I was like taken aback at the amount of fans, and this is not just Spurs fans, but it was Watford fans as well. I was just so taken aback. I never thought that much people can be walking in the same direction towards the stadium, and I actually got on top of like a little light pole just to look over everyone's head, and it's like in front of me was massive, behind me was massive. So I think COVID's a big issue, and I think that's really the reason why. I think people are still waiting, and it'll be great when this whole COVID restrictions is kind of lifted on the 26th. I think that's when people will be starting to come out more. And obviously, ticket prices or food prices as well is probably going to go up. So I think that's going to impact, and I think globally it's going to impact everyone. Like I was watching the Italy league there, and they don't even have fans playing in their stadiums. So I think that's why a lot of people have stayed away from going to grounds, and it's probably cheaper to watch it on their TV and safer as well to just stream it or watch it on television. You don't have to worry about COVID or taking a lateral test or getting a vaccine. So I think that's the reason. COVID related is the reason why there's been a drop off.
Interesting. And maybe let me put a bit of a different spin on this to you, Jack. Could it potentially be that fans are just pissed off at what they're seeing on the football pitch for the high money that they have to pay to follow this club? I mean, we're talking about season tickets expensive, most expensive in Europe, most expensive replica jersey in the UK to buy, food and drinks prices increase, which we will go on to. Is it a point that they're just being ripped off for the product they're being served up on the pitch and that they're just getting pissed off with it and don't want to travel?
Dave, I don't like to give cop-out answers, but it could be different reasons for different people with this one. So for someone who can't afford it, maybe that person that can't afford all of that isn't going because maybe what was brought up earlier by Oren and the fact that London is, an absolute hotbed for COVID at this moment in time. Going to that sort of a kind of arena, going to that sort of scenario is increasing your chances of potentially getting COVID, and you might be infecting others. It then could be also as well the combination that maybe people who can barely afford that season ticket have actually paid a lot of money over this winter period in order to pay for the things that just Sean had mentioned, presents, the increase of turkey, whatever it may be, just the inflation on certain items that have cost a lot more this year than they probably would have in previous years. And then it also could then be for other people, Dave, it could be what you just mentioned, which is the fact that maybe they don't have really the patience or even the money left to be able to pay for the most expensive replica shirt, the most expensive season ticket for a club and for a team that really hasn't exactly, probably wowed a lot of people in some time. So I feel like, Dave, if I were to guess what majority of people are not going to the games for, I feel like it doesn't actually have to do, unfortunately, with the product on the pitch and the expense of the ticket, because at the end of the day, there are a lot of people who can't afford it and they probably will continue to go because they just can and because it's probably still quite fun to go. But I think probably if I had to pick a certain population, I feel like the majority of it might have to actually do with potentially the case that London, as well as a lot of other major cities, are really experiencing huge COVID outbreaks. And maybe that's part of the reason. Also because lots of times, Dave, we don't even know if the games are going to be going on in the first place. So that's also kind of the reason. And so sometimes it seems like people are kind of getting this sort of hysteria, like, do I even need to risk going to the game because then it'll be canceled? Then I could, risk myself. I think it has more to do with potentially COVID, as well as maybe the combination of it being, a tough time of the year for people. Less than maybe the product on the pitch. But I think the product on the pitch is certainly a reason for plenty of people. Hate to give three different answers.
I just want to quickly add a little bit more spice to that, because actually this might not suit mine and Oren's points. It might suit the other kind of story. But I've just looked at Chelsea's home. I've just gone on Sky Sports and looked at all of their home games and their attendances. I've done the same for Arsenal, Man United and Liverpool. And from November all the way through until now, the variance between whoever they're playing, whether it's a big game or a small game, like Manchester United have been between 68 and 71,000. I think their capacity is 72. Arsenal's capacity is 60,000, something like that, and they've been at 59,000 and change for all of their games over that period, and Chelsea the same. So with that being said,
in some cases we're dropping off by about 15 to 20,000.
20,000, yeah. So there must be more to it. So it must be a frustration.
Maybe more what David was alluding to then.
Yeah.
The thing is, we'll have to wait and see, because look, the restrictions are, if I'm correct, have all been lifted in the UK. So we'll see over the next couple of months, maybe what the causes were. But sorry, Mr. Spurs, yeah.
So yeah, I just want to know. It'll be interesting because are they concluding home fans only, or is it away fans? Because
no, it's total attendance. Yeah,
it's totally attendance. So maybe it's the fact that away fans aren't making the trip up the Spurs.
No, actually, because
the away fans is only a small.
But it's also like the game against Morecambe when we had 40,000. 6,000, 6,000, I think it was, according to the thing I saw on Twitter. So they brought everyone that they could from Morecambe, and the same against West Ham in the Cup, the same against Chelsea. So of the 42,000 people that are turning up, 5% of that, 12% of that, like between 4,000 and 6,000 is away fans. So on this particular statistic, I haven't seen, I'll do it, but just on the 5 teams that I've got, 4 teams I just looked at, there's very little variance, and it's very close to their full attendance. So it does look like there's more to it, Dave. To your point, it does look like there's a frustration and a fan base that's pissed off and that aren't turning up.
Well, I'll be honest with you. I've heard, just this is my experience. I'm not saying it's true, but I've heard a lot less people tell me that they're not going because of COVID than a lot more people telling me that they're not going for the because of what they're seeing on the pitch. That's just my experience.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, it looks like it's stacking up. Yeah, I'll accept that. If we're 30% on average, 30% down from our capacity, when we've still got an 80,000 seater waiting list for season tickets, then there's something wrong, and it can't be put down necessarily to COVID or entirely to things that are happening away, inflation and stuff, because the 4 clubs around us that are of our kind of ilk, they're still selling out or getting close to sellouts every game. So
just let me ask
make an interesting point, Dave. Yeah.
I don't know if you know much about this, but if a season ticket holder doesn't want to go, he can put it on the ticket exchange. Have the club still been accepting them tickets to go on the ticket exchange, where they can basically sell that seat? And if that's the case, and the tickets have gone on the ticket exchange and people aren't snapping them up, well, I think that'll probably tell us absolutely everything.
Yeah, that would.
So I know that Tottenham have obviously got the digital ticket only, so you don't get touts outside White Hart Lane anymore. Yeah. Right. Okay. That's not the case at other clubs, especially clubs that are lower down. They haven't gone that technological kind of step, so you can still get the game, still get tickets that way. I don't know if Chelsea and United and that ilk of a club have moved to digital, but I have also heard anecdotally, that people have put their tickets on the exchange and they haven't been able to sell it. Someone who was around my house, I think, who was it? A friend of mine, one of my mum's friends is a season ticket holder, and he said that he'd put his ticket on the exchange and it hasn't been, it's not working or it's not being bought up, so he offered it to me. So I don't know if there's a problem with the ticket exchange. Maybe that explains a little bit of it, but it's too big of a jump, mate. It's like we're talking 25%. So I actually take your point on this one. It's big and it's worrying, and it obviously tells a story of people being frustrated.
And the clubs you just mentioned would be just as affected as our fans would by maybe fearing going to the game, or even like we said, the normal everyday stuff that maybe prevents people from wanting to go, like expenses. So I mean, I think it more leads towards what David was suggesting. I think well broken down by the panel there.
And the thing is, Jay, as he makes a good point here, we're 9 unbeaten and we can't sell it out. You know what I mean? It's
the way I've looked at it, and again, while doing a video, it's like I think in the last 3 years, and I can completely understand. I think there's been a lot of negative things and fans with Spurs, and you also have to look as well because on Instagram and things, how many fans actually support Spurs because they've born supporting Spurs, to fans who have came supporting Spurs because they were playing well under Poch. I saw this one video. It was this Chinese guy. He had a Sung Heung-min shirt on. Sung Heung-min got sent off against Everton. He took the shirt off and he was wearing like a Man City shirt underneath. So I don't know whether that's got to do with it. Like maybe because of tourism as well. How many actual, I think Spurs fans, the loyal ones, will go no matter what, support their team. And the rest that are not making it, are they kind of the one like, well, we're not supporting Spurs at the moment because they're not playing in the Champions League and we can go and watch Man City. Just a thought, because like I said, there's Spurs picked up a lot of fans. Like there's fans who support Conte but don't support Spurs. If Conte leaves, they leave. So I wonder if that's maybe something to do with it, that they don't have. I mean, Arsenal.
I get what you're saying about the tourism, but we have over 3 million fans in the UK, so you don't need the tourism to be able to sell.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that you do. I'm just saying like I'm saying that fans are annoyed, but it'd be interesting. It's really weird to me that if you have fans who are actually boycotting, because it's like, look, if you're a Spurs fan, support them all the way, no matter what. Like that's what I think a loyal Spurs fan is. That's where Spurs, when they were about to get relegated,
Oren, is that fair to say though that they're not loyal if they don't want to pay to go to the stadium to see the team? Because they're paying I'll tell you exactly how much they're paying now on a season ticket. They are paying 2,000. I think it's 1 second. I'll find it now. Give me 1 second. So we're paying 2,233. Okay, for an adult season ticket to follow Tottenham Hotspur. Now, if you equate it to what Man City are charging, which is 1,400, compared to what they're seeing on the pitch, compared to what we're seeing on the pitch, that's an increase of 800 quid right there. So, I mean, we're paying 800 more than what City fans are paying. They're paying for the most expensive replica jersey as well. So I think it's unfair to say that fans aren't sticking through thick and thin, because some people just don't want to pay the astronomical prices.
Not the season ticket holders. How much does a normal ticket cost?
Hang on, let me finish. When we talk to you, when I talk to you guys about Tottenham, we talk a lot about the finances, which I actually love going into. But we always refer to it as a business. Okay?
Yeah.
So now, if we're going to refer to it as a business here, as a business, does it make sense that Spurs fans are paying top dollar for what they're being served on the pitch compared to maybe what a City fan is playing? So if we're talking about as a business, of course you're going to lose customers because they're paying top dollar for some of the shit they've been seeing on the pitch this season.
There's 85,000 people on the wait list, right? And so there's a lot of people, and I'm sure some people in the comments will attest to this. I'm not one of them. So like, here's just my story. Right? I'm part of like a syndicate. So there's 8 season tickets, and there's like 17 or 18 people that are in the group, and then whoever wants to go will go, right? So I don't go to every game, but I go to half the games, whatever. But I've been on the waiting list for, I don't know, since I moved back from America, so 3 years, 2 years, and I'm 86,000 on the wait list. Now I know a lot of people that are like 30,000th or 40,000th were offered a ticket at some point in the preseason. But I've asked people this before. Like I'm waiting for a season ticket next to my dad, and he's a separate member who's also on the waiting list. And so, like, to get 2 tickets next to each other is far more difficult. But if you're just a solo person who's waiting to get a season ticket, and you might be 60,000 on the waiting list, and somebody who's up in the God section might not want to have, might not want theirs, and so Tottenham will just go through the list and say anyone who's single who wants to go by themselves, however far, they'll start at the top and go work their way down. But it's a case of you might be 50,000 from the list, and you might have been offered a ticket, but it's because it's a poor ticket, it's the worst seat in the house, it might not be where you want to sit, and also you're by yourself. If you're a family of 4 that are all trying to get to 4 tickets, you'll be waiting on that list for 20 years. Now, I don't understand why there's a problem for individual games where you shouldn't have 40,000. Craig Bowler made an interesting point in the comments. He was saying that other clubs reports ticket sales, not actual attendance, maybe because they don't have the technology in place to recognize the difference between ticket sales and who turns up, but Tottenham obviously do. So maybe there's something to that, Craig, and I don't know if what you're saying there, it sounds reasonable.
Where did you look up that stat, Sean?
What stat? Sorry.
Of the attendances at the other clubs?
When I was saying that I was just on Sky Sports. I clicked on
Sky Sports would be taking attendances, not what the club's tickets are selling. Sky Sports do attendances, do it for every single game, so it would be based. Your figure would be based on the attendances.
Well, but it's not. I don't know, right? But maybe that might be that. It might be that Tottenham Hotspur reports the attendance to Sky Sports, or reports it officially through their
Sky Sports, every single game they take the attendance themselves. They give it in their match reports and stuff like that.
Yeah, but they won't be checking. They won't be literally reviewing everyone that's going through. They'll be getting that from some communication from the club, right? So Listen, I'm speculating. I don't know the system, but I can't imagine that Sky Sports have got a person there who's counting with a click, 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 click through the gates thing. I think that they'll wait for the club to announce the official attendance and then report on it. Now, I don't know if what Craig is saying is true, and that some clubs are just saying this is the ticket sales, therefore that's the attendance. He's making a point that Arsenal had loads of empty seats tonight, and yet that they officially had pretty much near capacity, but there was clearly thousands and thousands of empty seats. I don't know if that's, I don't know, right? So, but either way, my point is, right, that like, so why does Manchester City have, you know, a far lower asking price? I've heard this debate being had on TalkSport with Simon Jordan, and loads of Man City fans came in and said it's out because Simon Jordan was making the point that Manchester City deliver the very best in football, the very best quality of football, viewed by fans to see the very best players at the very highest level across all Champions League, and yet Manchester City can't sell a game out. And the Manchester City fans come on saying, we're a working class club and we play like 60 fucking games in a season. We can't afford to go to every single game. And it's not the same as comparing us to Manchester United, who have got, to Orin's point, you know, fans from down south. You know, the vast majority of Manchester United fans are from London. The vast majority of people that will be at the game won't be from Manchester. They'll either be from elsewhere in the UK or they'll be from overseas. There'll be corporate tickets, all that stuff. Manchester City doesn't have that same draw for whatever reason, rightly or wrongly, but it's just the reality. And so I don't know if using Manchester City is a fair comparison for season tickets, because a corporate's not going to buy a season ticket for Manchester City.
Well, I mean, it is a fair comparison. It is a fair comparison because look at what they're winning on the pitch compared to what we are, and they're charging a lot less for the season ticket. So it's a fair comparison.
Well, if you're using the point that the reason that they're winning is because they're paying for the players that can deliver the success, and the money that comes to pay for the players that deliver the success comes from season tickets. But that's not the truth. The money that comes from Manchester City's successes is from oil money.
No, I get that. But my point is that Tottenham were being charged absolute top dollar, 800 quid more than what City fans are. And look at what they're winning. With what they're winning and what they're spending, why aren't they charging a hell of a lot more for a product that they're serving up, which they technically could, because they're winning all the time compared to what we're charging?
Because they can't sell their stadium. Because they can't sell their stadium out, and this is the first time in history, as far as I've been alive, that Tottenham are not. And like I say, I would have gone to
our stadium out. We've proven that this season.
I mean, in the last month, it's a statistic that's worrying, but I don't understand. We don't know. We're speculating on the reasons why, because if you go onto TottenhamHotspur.com and you try and get 2 tickets in a row to see Arsenal or to see Chelsea or to see whoever, you have to get, if you're not a season ticket holder, you have to be online the second they come available to try and get 2 tickets. It's not like, I don't understand. I don't understand. And so I'm not going to speculate on the gap of what's happening there. But the reason why Tottenham can afford, as a business, you asked about a business, the reason why Tottenham can justify asking for £800 more than Manchester City, even though that's an extreme example, because we're only £100 or we're basically the same as Chelsea, we're basically the same as United. But the season ticket price can be justified because there's 85,000 people who are waiting to get a season ticket that are willing to pay the price that they are currently being asked.
They're paying the price that they're currently paying now, which is not full attendances.
In the last month, mate. In the last month, right? But over the last 10 years, Tottenham has been it's been very difficult to get a ticket to see a Tottenham game, and people will pay Tottenham could raise their price by 25%, Dave, and there would still be 1 million people, or still be 80,000 people.
Let me make this clear. It's only been since October that we haven't been able to sell out more than 60,000. But before that, there have been low attendances at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Let me make that clear. We haven't sold out. From October, we haven't sold more than 60,000. But before that, there's other games where we've had very low attendance.
Yeah, but Tottenham are not allowed to sell. If they got a 67,000 capacity, Tottenham aren't allowed to sell 67,000 season tickets. They can only sell, I'm not sure what the number is. Someone might be able to inform us, but you obviously have to save a certain percentage, 15% for away fans. You have to save a certain percentage for corporates, and you have to save a certain percentage for people that want to buy tickets that are members, non-members, etc. So of the 67,000, let's say half, let's say 33,000, and I don't know, maybe I could way off, but 33,000 are season tickets. So you're talking about the price of a season ticket. There's 33,000 season tickets potentially, and there's 80,000 people that are willing to buy. So the gap is either season ticket holders that don't want to go right now for whatever reason, or can't resell their ticket. But I promise you, if Tottenham could easily, it's demand and supply, mate. Tottenham could easily raise their prices by 25%, and I would still pay it. And I'm on the waiting list, but I'm 85. I think I'm going to have to wait 7-8 years to get an option, because I'm sitting there. I'm trying to get 2 tickets in the same spot in a nice part of the stand. You know.
Yeah.
Right. Sorry. Doing some research here. Spurs single ticket is 40 quid. Starts from 40 quid. With Man City starts from 42. So I would interested to know. Like, I know we were talking about the season tickets, but I wanted to know, like, how many individual tickets, like, you know, the £40 a ticket, like, maybe that's the problem, that there's not enough singular fans going to Spurs who are spending the 40 quid or whatever price it costs. Maybe they're not the ones who are going, and they're just waiting, like I said, because I was watching the Man City, you know, FA Cup, and they had loads of empty seats as well. So that's what I was trying to, like, figure out. And Spurs charge 40 quid. That's the cheapest ticket, whereas Man City's is 42 points. So it could be something where it's, yes, a season ticket holder, certainly, but I think it could, you know, my theory is that maybe not enough individual people are going, not season ticket holders, just people who are going and paying tickets, you know, £42 or whatever. Maybe they're the ones who are not going to Spurs at the moment because they can't afford it, or traveling arrangements, and just waiting to see what will happen. That could be the case as well.
Yeah, interesting.
But still,
interesting.
you know, that's just my thought.
So I know I've been talking a lot. The last thing is the 3-second thing is the other consideration around maybe poor attendances recently is there have been train strikes, subway tube strikes in London, and Tottenham is a terrible club if you're driving. You can't get to it anymore. It's impossible to park. Yeah. Whereas every other club has got more facilities and amenities that accommodate people that drive. If you want to go and see Tottenham, unless you live very locally, it's you basically have to get the train. And if there's a train strike or a tube strike, and that's been happening quite a lot in January, so that might also be a variable. But I'm sorry, I've been talking so much.
That's all good. Information's good.
Sorry.
No, absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. Tottenham Tantrum Goal says, for over 20 years, we had nothing but lies from Levy and Enoch. Spurs were founded by four fans for the fans. Tottenham Hotspur is not just a club. It's more than that. Tottenham Hotspur till I die. # Levy out. Big yourself up, Dermot. Big yourself up.
Love you, Dermot.
Big up, Dermot. I mean,
started with 4 men under a street lamp, and across the road, and now we're at this stage. Pretty incredible, Dermot.
That's growth. That is growth.
Pretty incredible, Dermot. But big yourself up. Really appreciate the big ones, and as well as also putting your thoughts in. Always, Dermot. He stands strong on it, Dave. He stands very strong on it, and he's also given us the history lessons. As always, I think he's the historian of the YouTube community, the historian of the Harris Army, the historian of Spurs. But big yourself up, Dermot.
No, 100%. Big up, Dermot, my man. Really appreciate the support, brother. Anyone else feel like getting in your super chats? Just get them in, guys, and we'll get them up. But keep getting your comments in the chat. But look, guys, we'll move on to the next part. And look, I don't know whether you agree with this, but I'm going to have my very strong say on this. Spurs up the food and drink prices by 7% at the stadium, and it's the second time this season a price hike has occurred. Of course, we understand that globally costs have increased enormously, and this is from the Tottenham Hotspur Supporters Trust. We know that the impact of Brexit on supply has been highly detrimental in many ways, including financially. We also understand the pandemic has meant that labour patterns have changed and that the club, along with everyone else, has felt the brunt of these price hikes. However, an on average 7% increase at a time when supporters are facing huge financial problems of their own feels excessive and untimely. More of us have already incurred costs from matches we have been unable to attend due to the rapid Christmas rise in the Omicron COVID-19 variant and the inability to sell our ticket on ticket exchange due to falling demand. So, I mean, the Supporters Trust are telling us there that it's probably a combination of both. The club have also chosen to remove the much-valued concessionary rates for young adults and seniors for recent home cup times. At a time when supporters are already getting anxious about a perceived lack of investment in on-the-pitch matters, a price hike like this in time for the North London Derby. But it's going to continue. Feels insensitive in the extreme. We have asked the club to look at finding ways to serve more affordable food options via the mobile hawkers and to ensure that they are available throughout the stadium. We have also urged THFC not to impose any further price rises this season and to stop or absorb any further increases themselves. Now, I mean, this is basically the Supporters Trust who represent the fans. They're telling the club it's too expensive. They're telling them, along with the season ticket, the jersey, and the food. Now, the second increase, it's way too expensive. Look, now I get being a football club with billions of pounds. Now I get like what I mean to say is I can get with the global economic sort of situation and the 7% increase. They want to bring it up in line with what the economy is doing. But I mean, we're a football club with billions of pounds worth of money. Why can't they take the 7% hit for once, considering they can afford it, instead of putting the cost back on the fans and what's already tough times for the fans? And we've heard the Sports Trust say that they represent the fans, so fans are telling them, and they know the money is tight. And like we already fork out, like I said, for the most expensive season ticket in Europe and the most expensive replica shirt in the UK. Fans work hard all week and in most cases do overtime to be able to bring their son or someone else with them to support their beloved club and still go, even though they're not getting the football on the pitch to pay for. Is it fair that the club have put this 7% back on the fans?
Jack, I've been talking for ages. Jack, go then, and I'm going to step back from this one.
This is a tough one for me. It's obviously not fair, but this is a tough one for me because I feel like this is sort of a kind of like hike or a price hike that I deal with on a daily basis. I live in one of the most ridiculously expensive cities in the world where, you know, sometimes you'll be paying sometimes like $5 just for a fucking creamer at one stage, you know, and I don't know, like it's 7% is absurd. It's already ridiculously high as it is. They already are making ridiculous profit on it. They have their own brewery. They're, you know, using, you know, they're cutting costs on that. They already cut costs on the cups that fill from the bottom, which means that they don't have to pay as much for maybe beer being spilt or beer being lost in that sort of way as well. They found every way to make the most maximum profit as possible. They've clearly seen that maybe they want to continue whatever that margin of profit may be. Maybe it's 200%, maybe it's 300%, whatever that margin of profit is, they're trying to maintain it. And it is quite disgusting considering the fact that there are a huge majority of businesses that do try to find ways to make ends meet. There are a lot of small businesses around the world that have tried not to increase their prices when it comes to certain goods because they know that their clientele are used to a certain type of price of a certain type of item. Whereas when you see maybe much larger sort of kind of like corporations, which basically to a degree Spurs is kind of a property investment sort of corporation, to see them increase prices in the same way that probably smaller businesses have to is quite disgusting in my eyes because they are not the ones that are really trying to, you know, increase prices to, you know, swim above water or keep their head above water. Smaller businesses are the ones that have to do that in order to keep their head above water. And it is kind of ridiculous to see them, you know, try to maintain whatever that profit of margin that they're going for. I can only speculate. But if they're trying to do it just to maintain the consistent profit margin, then it is quite disgusting in my eyes. But at the same time, I will say probably coming from someone that sees this on a regular basis when it comes to anything that I buy in the city that I live in, I'm not quite surprised.
Interesting.
Owen, I'll let you go next, but just so you guys know, I do have some. If it's okay with you, Jack, and okay with you, Dave, I'd like to. I'm going to upload a couple of slides because you asked me this a while back, Dave, and I did go and grab some details about prices. I'm uploading them into the chat. So, Owen, I'll let you go first, and then if you guys want to bring it up, you can. If not, you don't have to. But I'll just upload some details in there.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah, I would like to know how much, like, what is the normal price? Because while you were talking there, Arsenal for burgers and chips is £18 for burgers and chips. Watford for chicken bites and chips is £10. So I would need to know how much Spurs are charging and what food they're buying. I think
it's just across all across the board. No matter what you're getting in the stadium, it's all been up to 7%.
Well, I can understand it. The reason why is because, Brexit and everything, and food costs coming in and having to pay. And I don't know. That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't know how much. Like, did it go from £5 for burgers and chips to £15 for burgers and chips? When I was at Wembley, I didn't buy any food. I was like, no way. They shouldn't be charging this much for food. But at the same time, I kind of understand it. Yeah. So I wouldn't really have an answer whether it's bad or good. I just think that's the economy. Things are rising. Yes, of course, you could say, like Jack was saying, it's not right, but at the same time, you did it well there, Jack, because you're saying you live in a very expensive country.
More like
rising all the
I've grown
time.
depressed by it already.
Yeah.
Like I'm quite used to it. I'm not surprised. Like, even, I guess, cynical dad had put in the comments, like, living in probably the best example of a very capitalist driven city, it's not a surprise that, huge sort of consortiums or corporations would charge, extra in order to meet the same level of profit margin, because that's what they all do at the end of the day. And it also, like some people have made in the comments, and as you've just made, with the impact of Brexit, with the impact of COVID, they don't want to take that sort of hit. They're not willing to make that sort of hit for reasons I can't really relate to, because I'm not in their positions of power or wealth. But it is kind of always a bit of a surprise when you see a huge corporation or a huge kind of, wealth sort of whatever organization increase their profit margin or try to meet the same profit margins, when they do realize that this is a temporary period where maybe the profit margin is going to be considerably less than what it used to be. But I could be completely wrong on that. I'm not a financial expert, but I am quite used to this sort of thing, and it doesn't really
just
shock
to add, because like I said to you guys, I used to be a chef before. I'm not in the industry anymore, but I still speak to chefs, head chefs in restaurants, and they say they've had to up their cost of their food. And the reason why is because their suppliers have upped their cost. So that could be something as well, that whatever a lot of restaurants or places that upgrade their food, of course the customers are going to go, why you're doing that. But if the suppliers are upping, so before, say, Spurs would bring in like cases of burgers and it was a certain fee and that fee's been up, then they have to increase their price as well. So in the restaurant,
they don't have to. They can actually take a personal hit. Like,
that's what I'm referencing.
This is where I'm coming from. So we're justified the season tickets. We're now justifying the price hike.
Yeah,
but yet we can't spend money on transfers.
But we will spend money on transfers.
We haven't spent anything. We keep saying the money's not there. We have this to pay off. We have that to pay off.
Well,
so we're justifying all the price hikes. But then we're not getting into transfers to help the team. And we justify that as well.
But I have said Spurs in the last season have spent over 300 million or close to 300 million pounds on players. What players you want is not necessarily the players that Spurs can get, because those players have to want to come to Spurs. So that's the Spurs aren't spending on players they have. And let's be honest here, guys, or any Spurs fan out there who said haven't spent. If Ndombele, Lo Celso, and all the players that have bought were playing top of their skin and Spurs were sitting second, even first, no one will be saying that Levy doesn't spend money.
If they're not. This is the thing.
Yes, exactly. So you can't.
They're not.
Yes, but the narrative is
no. Hang on. Let's stop skirting around the facts here. We keep saying what ifs. Let's stay with facts. They're not.
They're not. Yes, they're not. And I don't. But
I don't. The money was.
What I'm saying is. But what I'm saying is, I don't personally think that's to do with spending. I think the players who are underperforming have come to Spurs in the last 3 years, and Spurs have turned into a very negative, toxic club by the supporters and the media. And it's hard to play.
Hang on.
No. Let me finish. Let me finish. Let me finish.
I want to correct that. No, I want to correct that.
Let me finish.
No, I'm not going to let you say.
I let you finish. I let you finish. So let me finish.
I'm not going to let you.
Let me finish.
You've been speaking to me for 30 spoke. I'm going to have a bit here to say. Every single time. So what I'm going to say is, we can't keep blaming the media and the fans for absolutely everything. You have to,
because you're
and not blame the club, not call out the club for what they're doing.
Every time you go on Twitter.
But not once have you sat there and said the club have done anything wrong. You can't keep blaming the fans for absolutely everything.
I don't think the club has. And I think that a lot of fans need to understand that I'm supporting the Spurs team, who used to be playing 14th and happy enough to now finish in the top 4. That's the level. That's the level that I'm supporting. From a team that was happy enough to finish 10th, winning nothing. I remember watching an Arsenal game. Remember when Arsenal won the league? Spurs celebrated like they'd won the Champions League because they got a draw against a club at White Hart Lane. So I looked at that and went, I'm embarrassed to be a Spurs fan right now. We are celebrating, going nuts because we've got a draw against a team that has won the Premiership. That's not right, especially against our rivals. So to sit there and to look at that, from going from that to now saying that Spurs should be challenged for the top 4, I just think that Spurs have come a long way, and a lot of fans don't want to accept that. I would understand if Spurs were winning titles, finishing top 4, winning FA Cups. I would understand the frustration. I'd be frustrated. I'd be like, that's not right that we're playing that now. But Spurs in the last 3 seasons has been in the position where, the top teams, Chelsea, Man United, oil money, whatever, and they're still finishing above Arsenal, who spent massive amounts of money. They're still finishing above, Man United. 10 seasons ago, you would never ever say that Spurs would, when Spurs finished above Arsenal for the first time, what were fans like? They were shocked. Wow. Oh my word, they actually finished above Arsenal. That's mad. That should never be the case, but it was the case. So I understand the frustration, but as a Spurs fan, I've supported them since I was 9 years old. I have seen Spurs got better and better and better. Yes, they might not be able to win the league, but that's fine because Man City has been able to spend lots of money on players and bring those players in, and they won the league, and they had to win the league. They brought in Pep Guardiola. So,
to be honest, Owen, I agree with a lot of what you just said because I know me and you.
I just think that's the way. That's why I feel. And
but Man City didn't like. Man City are just. I think it's very unreasonable to look at what Man City have done. And like Chelsea, right? Mm-hmm. Roman Abramovich, so people also think that like Roman Abramovich has written a £1.5 billion check as a loan to Chelsea. It's a loan from his other bit, but no one's going to FFP Roman Abramovich because the tax man can't do it. The HMRC can't do it. He's got his money coming in from places that no one can investigate, no one can understand. Like, so one of the benefits of having an oligarch as a chairman is that when he says it's a £1.5 billion loan, ain't nobody going to be able to question that or reference it. Same thing with PSG, same thing with Manchester City, right? So I agree a lot with what you just said, Oren. I think I take your stance that it's unreasonable expectations at times, but I'd also think that when we look at Manchester City, I think it's a silly comparison. I think the more reasonable comparisons to make are looking at things like Manchester United or Arsenal, Everton, because they're doing their thing, and they might be doing it in a way that's more approachable, more desirable. But
they're winning trophies. That's the nuts and bolts of it. They're winning trophies.
Everton haven't.
We keep talking about Tottenham spend. True. What's Tottenham's net spend over the last 5 years, Mr. Spurs?
I'm not so sure.
28 million.
Well, 1.1 billion and 28 million.
Net spend. Net spend is transfer spend and transfer sold.
When you're just looking at transfers, mate. But the Tottenham.
But that's what I'm talking about because Mr. Spurs was talking about transfers.
Okay.
So net spend between transfers is transfers brought in and transfers sold. It's 28 million.
Yeah.
So we keep talking about the monies that Spurs spend, but we're not talking about the money they also take in. You don't want to talk about net spend whatsoever. You want to just keep talking about what we spend, what we spend.
Yeah, but a lot of
net spend, and that brings it down. What we spend considerably less to 28 million. So what were you saying we spent over the last few years?
Close to 200 in the last 3 years. 292 million.
Oh, because we brought in about 260 million.
Are you, Dave? Are you sure we've done that? Are you sure the net spend is 28 million? Is that up to date? Because I'm not sure it is. Who have we sold? Because we spent 35 million on Reguilon, we spent 45 million on Sanchez, 60 million on Ndombele. Who have we sold for big money in the last 5 years?
Sissoko. Yeah, that's a good point.
I'll tell you now.
Was Eric?
I'm not challenging it. Like I don't believe.
Yeah.
It's all love.
Last 5 years.
I want to understand that one.
Say Kyle Walker. Was he in that 5 year, 50 million?
Yeah, but then we wasted that whole fee on Sanchez, so it's not like we really got a lot there.
Yeah. Just while
Sorry, so net spend, sorry, my bad, is 94.6 million right now, up to current date.
and that's as of January 2022, is it?
Well, this is off the Premier League website, the net spend.
But what does that like? Do you know when that
This is
article
the
was
up-to-date
published?
figure.
This up to date.
Okay.
So Spurs have spent more than they've sold. Is that what it says?
Yeah,
So
so 94 million.
So how can you say then that Spurs haven't spent if they've spent more than they've sold?
No, but I'm not saying that. I'm arguing you. You're constantly saying about how much we spent. You're throwing out figures 200 million like it's all like we're spending. Well, it's spending loads and loads, but it's not. It's not actually true. When you take into what we sold, counteract that. What you're saying is not actually factually true.
Well, what superstar player have we sold in the last 5 years?
But are you sure, Oren? Just I want to make sure that because are you sure the 300 million number is true as well?
No, it's 292 million. That's how much they've bought in the last 3 years.
And that includes
the
likes of that doesn't include Romero, right? Which is not factored in yet.
Yeah, it was this year. The start of this year, 2021-22, Spurs spent 60 million.
But that doesn't include Romero. It doesn't include any loans to buys that haven't been fulfilled. Or
has Romero been bought? Romero's on loan, isn't he? On loan,
it's loan to buy, but with an obligation to buy, right? So it's essentially just that's just the deferral.
It's just the players that they've actually bought. They haven't. It was not the loan because obviously.
So then in reality, then it's add another 60 million on top because all that is that's just an accounting practice. When you do a loan to buy with an obligation to buy and the salaries are already agreed, that's just a way of pushing money one way rather than the other to get certain things, metrics hit for FFP or for other reasons. To make sure that it's just dodgy accounting in essence.
Okay. So 300 million then they've spent. So what I'm saying is that Spurs have spent. They have spent money.
Yeah, they spent money poorly. I completely agree with everyone's frustrations. Like it's poor spending, right? Sanchez is not the world superstar. Like you compare him to Virgil van Dijk. When you look at Liverpool, which is a really good example of a team that's well run, well managed, but 2007 Liverpool were like if their previous owners had this leveraged debt model that Burnley are going through now, that Manchester United are still going through, but Liverpool had it, and they almost went bankrupt in the financial crisis of 2008. Then the new guys came in, they figured it out, they made them sustainable, but then also you had the rise of Philippe Coutinho, and they bought Philippe Coutinho for pennies, and they sold him for a world record 150 million quid. And with that money, they didn't do what Tottenham did, which was go and buy 10, 15 million pound players or 10 million pound players that were, the vast majority of them were dog shit. You could only argue that Eriksen and Lamela were, reasonably successful. The rest were just shit shows. What Liverpool did with their 150 million was go and buy the best goalkeeper in the world and the best centre back in the world. Right. So
Van Dijk became the best centre back in the world. He wasn't at Southampton.
No, but he cost 60 million quid.
Yeah, at the time, people were like scratching their heads. Why are you paying that much for Van Dijk? And he became a good player. So I'm not denying that Spurs haven't bought in players that haven't stepped up. But what I'm saying is Liverpool has a history, and I think Klopp made those players better. And I'm a Liverpool. I live in Northern Ireland, so Liverpool, like, they're supported ever. And every single time I spoke to Liverpool fans, no matter what Liverpool were going through, they were 100% behind that team. Not once did they slag them off. Like Firmino, for example, the striker for Liverpool, he doesn't score. He scored like 12 goals a season. Not once does he get booed. Not once does he get. So
they had protests outside the stadium. They protested their owners. So they were.
Yeah, that was a Super League. Everybody went to do that.
They had other protests. I've been speaking to Liverpool fans who were at. They had other protests as well.
What was it during Klopp, when Klopp was in charge?
I'm not sure when. I'm not sure. They have had other protests where they haven't been happy with these owners.
Yeah, because they're owned by Gillette. So the American, they came in. Is it Gillette that still owns Liverpool?
The Fenway Group.
The Fenway Group. So, I can understand that. It's just like what I'm saying is it's against the owners, but not once did they ever slag Liverpool off. And that's the thing. Like Liverpool went so long without winning the trophy. It was like 30 years. And every season is like, this is year we're going to win it. Liverpool finished 5th or whatever. And like I've said, and I've said it over and over again, Spurs haven't won trophies. And that's a big issue to attract players. So you can buy Alisson, you can buy Van Dijk, you can buy other players, because when they look at Liverpool, it's a history that wins trophies, win the Champions League with Rafa Benitez and everyone like that. Spurs hasn't. And I do think that if Pochettino had won just one trophy with Spurs, you're looking at a completely different dynamic.
Yeah, so, but that's all if buts and maybes, right? So, but
the truth is, we haven't. If you were a top player, say you're 25 years old.
I don't think winning the FA Cup, like if Tottenham go and win in the FA Cup this year but finish 6th, I don't think.
No, I understand that.
I don't think that Veretout is going to look at Tottenham and go, "Oh, they're going places." It's all about, as much as people want, as much as fans want trophies because trophies matter. Players want to play at the highest level so they can get the best. They can get the best attention focused on them at the highest level and get the best salaries, because they've got a 15-year shelf life. So, as much as some people say, some fans say, "I don't care if we finish top 4 7 times in the last 20 years under Daniel Levy," which never happened under a previous chairman, then like that, and then therefore it's irrelevant we finish 4th. But ultimately, I think that finishing top 4, first of all, it's a stepping stone to winning cups because you can attract players and you can get the money and you can play at the highest level. But also, I don't know, is Veretout going to give a shit about winning the Carling Cup, or does he care more about playing against Real Madrid or Barcelona next season in the Champions League, because it gets him on a bigger pedestal? And you have to, they're human beings and they've got a 10, 15-year shelf life to make their money. Yeah. So when people say that winning an FA Cup is more important than finishing top 4, I don't agree with it, because I think that the ability to attract players starts and finishes with being in the Champions League.
Yeah, absolutely. I do agree with that. And that's what I've been saying. It's like, we want the top players, but sometimes Spurs fans just have to realize that Spurs, they're not at that level yet of Liverpool because of the history. Historically, they're not. And like you said, the top players that Spurs want, they might not want to come to Spurs because they might go to Man City or they might go to Barcelona or Real Madrid, because they know that, those clubs are bigger worldwide as well. They have a bigger fan base. Now, it's frustrating because as a Spurs fan, I want to say that Spurs have the best players in the world. I want to say that. And even with Harry Kane, like yesterday, I was thinking, I am so blessed to watch Harry Kane, who I can say is a world-class striker, play for Spurs. So blessed, Son Heung-min. So, but these players they didn't come to Spurs already the best. They became the best, and that's what Spurs have to invest. They have to get players in who want to be the best and reach that level. That's the only way they can work it. They can't come to Spurs and just say, "Oh, it's okay, I'll just play good for a year and then I'll get sold. It's all fine. It's all good." Too many of that. I think that's been Spurs' downfall as well. Buying players in who just use Spurs as a stopgap.
But we're going to keep using as a stopgap until eventually the board put in the players that we need to be able to win trophies.
It
to
takes
be able
time.
to attract these sort of players. Like, we can sit here and say, yeah, Pochettino, for me, I think he done the best he could. He got us to multiple semi-finals, multiple finals. But we can't sit here and ignore the fact that he went 3 windows without bringing in a player to help him. We can't ignore that.
There's only one season.
We can sit here and maybe say, yeah, Poch should have won a trophy. But was he helped to the full extent we could have helped him? No, he wasn't. And this is what fans are getting pissed off about.
Yeah, I get that. But
the World Cup final, a man that's known for winning trophies, because it was cheaper to sack him then than what it would have been after the cup final. And this is what fans get pissed off about. We wonder, but the thing is, we wonder why fans give out about this club. I'll go back to my point. They're being charged top dollar for every single thing they want to do to be able to support this club.
Dave, drop those things in.
This is why they're getting pissed off with the club.
Dave, drop those things in there, because I've got the prices, right, of all of the Premier League, net by net. If you go to prices 1, if you get that up, it's all of the Premier League. I'll just take the super chat first. And then sorry, mate. Yeah, sorry.
And says, I don't know about Levy, but I'm not a big fan of Paratici. Look at what happened to Juve after Marotta left. Some of Paratici's decisions were shocking. Jack?
I think yes and no. There were definitely some shocking ones. The Aaron Ramsey one, still to this day, is probably one of the most ridiculous signings of history, where he signed him on a free, I believe, and then, paid him. I think he's one of the highest paid players in all of world football, actually, Aaron Ramsey. The Ronaldo decision, I think you can look at that a lot of ways. I actually think that was a great move, actually, for Juve, because they were trying to push for that elusive Champions League. And some other signings that they made were actually quite clever. I think the Kulusevski signing was quite clever. I think the McKennie signing was quite clever. But then you look at some others that weren't so clever. I think probably that is the case, that after Morata did leave, maybe Paratici to a degree, didn't have his right-hand man, didn't have his guy that he really depended on in order to maybe make the right sort of decisions. He was left to be a bit on his own. You can look at it a lot of ways. I think there were some very shocking sort of, transfers brought in, but then there were some ones that weren't so shocking, the ones that actually were quite clever at the end of the day as well. So you can look at it a variety of ways, but there definitely were some shocking ones. And then there were some ones that I would say were quite clever. Probably a mixed bag, I would say, to bottom Duda.
No, big up the bottom, dude. I really appreciate the support, my man. Really appreciate it. Shawnee, what do you want me to bring up, lad? The first one here, is it?
No. So this is just a little bit of, and it's gonna maybe confirm.
That's what I was looking at.
Confirm the appearance, confirm the opinions, or disagree with them. But so that's the which one is that? Which one is that? Prices 2. No, go to Prices 1. Go to Prices 1 first. It's the third one.
This one here.
Yeah. So this is the price of a beer and the price of a pie at every Premier League or most of the Premier League stadiums. As of, I think it was October, this was made November. So maybe it's gone up since, right? But so you can see that Tottenham Hotspur have got £5 for the price of beer, which is in line with Vicarage Road at Watford, right? And it's not that far away from Villa Park in Villa. And you can see as you go further north, where cost of living is usually considered cheaper, the cost of rent is cheaper, right? It goes down. And then you look at the price of a pie, where in the north of England, people appreciate a pie more than they do down south. And so you got like in places like, I don't even know where Falmouth Stadium is, but you got the prices of pie. So it's a little bit higher, right? So you've got places where the price of a pie is 30-40% higher than it is at Tottenham. If you then go to...
is this after this second?
No, this would. I don't know when the 7% things happened as of January, right? But this was as of October. If you go to prices, the third one, the second one, Prices 3. I'll read it out because it's going to be on the sideways. Yeah. It's a sideways thing, but this was like a snapshot about the price of a pint varies in different cities across the UK. However, generally, a price of a pint of lager remains roughly from £3 to £6 with an average price of £3.86. London is, of course, the UK's most expensive city for a pint, with the average price ringing in at £5.33. So if you're in London, and if you now go to Prices 2, which was the first one that you got up, right? If you're in London, whether you go to a pub at the end of the street, like I live in the suburbs of Surrey, and if I go to the local... like not Wetherspoons, but the local pub around the corner, I'm going to pay more for a pint of Stella than I am if I go to Tottenham, right? It's just so when people say that Tottenham's prices of their, the concessions there are super expensive, they're actually not. Because if I go to the local pub and I want to watch Tottenham, I get to watch it on a 40-inch TV. If I go into the Tottenham Stadium, I'm doing that because I'm going to an experience, right? I'm going to a match, and I wanted to get you more things. The last page, and this is the championship here also shows the same thing. There's not that much difference in the price of beer or the price of a pie, depending on the quality of the football. Well, yeah. So this one here just shows that even at the championship level, where you're watching second class teams, the price of the beer is more about region than it is about team or quality, right? If you go to the very last one, Prices at the O2. So I wanted to compare and contrast the price of what you pay for an experience. Now, I'll just the only thing that matters is this is the menu. But if you go to the beer and cider section, you'll see that like a price of a pint of beer at the O2, if you want to go and watch Take That or whoever performing their show, you're going to pay 40-50% more than you would watching Tottenham. So the point of those 4 slides is to demonstrate that it's not that Tottenham are overpricing for their concessions. Tottenham are in line with their location. It's not so much about what you're seeing and Daniel Levy being greedy. It's more around the local price of beer in the area. London is always going to be the most expensive version. Tottenham are in London. Plus, you are going to watch a match. You're going to watch an experience, right? So whilst you're in that place, they have the ability to take advantage of the fact that you're in their arena, just like the O2 does. But the O2 will take advantage of you by 50% more than Daniel Levy does. So I don't think, and this is my point, right? I know it always rubs up people up the wrong way when I defend the decisions, but just comparisons-wise, if you go to Vicarage Road at Watford, you're paying the same as you're paying at Tottenham, and you're watching Watford.
Yeah, but the tickets probably aren't as expensive. And what the Supporters Trust is trying to tell is what they said in their statement is fans can't keep affording this. The increase on the drinks and pie, plus the most expensive tickets, plus the jersey, plus travel to and from the game. Keep affording this. I mean, especially with a lot of people losing money during the pandemic. I mean, look at the era Tottenham's in. You know, are they forgetting their roots?
Well, I get that, mate. But like, if you want to have that, and this is
how often do you go to the O2, Sean? You don't go 2 or 3 times a week. You go once every fucking couple of months.
I take it. But if you want to go and buy a bag of popcorn at the cinema, it's going to cost you £5. Like, businesses are there to make money, and whether or not people appreciate the fact, it's just the way it is. Like, you go to the cinema to watch the Spider-Man movie, and if you go with your 2 kids to watch your wife and your 2 kids, you're not going to get out of there less than £100 for the 4 tickets and for the 4 bags of popcorn and 4 Diet Cokes. Oh. And at Tottenham, you're watching, you know, the team that means more to you than anything else. I'm not defending it. I'm just explaining it.
I get you. But the thing is, right, so if a business is there to make money, I forget which one of you said it, that people were saying profit over glory, and that's not true. So if a business is there to make money and we constantly look at things from a business sense, is profit over glory true?
No, because Tottenham I haven't said profit over glory tonight. I don't know if Oren did, but
I did, yeah.
The profit over glory mantra suggests that profit to Daniel Levy in the short term is a thing, and it's not, right? So I know that I know Brian Daigle, when he's watching, and we had this conversation before, he comes in and says, Sean, I've already shown this to you, and you're wrong about this. Like, what he talks about is Daniel Levy taking a £3 million bonus for delivering the stadium ahead of time, right? And I've tried to explain to him that there's a difference between profit and compensation. Compensation for all the directors, all of the staff, all of the players, everything else is based on what you're guaranteed to earn and what you can earn based on your performance. But all of that stuff comes before profit. Profit is what's left over after all of the costs and all of the revenue have been factored in. Short-term, long-term, intangible assets, tangible assets, all of that stuff is factored in. And then what's left is either profit or loss. And Daniel Levy, in a private company, and Joe Lewis have the option of what to do with the profit that's left over. They can either leave it in the company or they can take it out. And as a private company, you take it out via dividends. And Daniel Levy and Joe Lewis haven't done that in the last 5 years. They may have not done it for longer than that, but I've only just reviewed the previous 5 years. So when the ENIC out say profit over glory, they're suggesting that Tottenham take profits out, and they don't. This is all I've ever said. It's a misnomer. It's not true. Whatever money is left over after paying for all of the directors, all of the players, all of the salaries, all of the whatever, and what comes in via the fans in variety of formats, whether it's your Sky broadcasting subscription, whether it's your money from Amazon Prime, whether it's your season ticket, whether it's paying the full whack for your T-shirt, whatever that is, right? All of that stuff is netted off against each other, and what's left over is what's called profit. And then Daniel Levy has the option to leave that in the club or to take it out via dividends. And he hasn't taken a penny, and none of them have, for the last 5 years. So when I say that the ENIC out profit over glory thing is a misnomer, it's true. It might not satisfy people who have a closed mind, but it's the truth. They don't take profit out of the club. They haven't. They might do. And I've already explained that in the future, one of the 3 strikes and you're out things, if Daniel Levy does decide to take profit out of the club via dividends before he reinvests in the club, then I am right on the Levy out thing with everybody else. But at the moment, he hasn't done it. He's left it into the club. Now, how that is being utilised at the moment, Tottenham have got £180 million on the balance sheet in cash. Last year, they had £270 million on the balance sheet in cash. So when people say, when he says, or when the rumours are that there's no cash, there's no money for transfers, there is money. There's £180 million in cash on the balance sheet. Whether he wants to spend it or not, that's up to him. And whether that's okay with people is up to you. But the idea that Daniel Levy's taking profit out of the club is just not true. He's taking his compensation, but then everybody gets paid their salary, and everybody should have bonuses. That's just capitalism.
But see, this is the thing. It can't work. And ye two guys, you and Aaron, have been arguing that maybe we don't have the money to be able to spend in this January. But yet now you're saying there is money.
No, don't say that.
But you've all been justifying the reasons why we can't spend the money.
No. I'm not saying Spurs shouldn't spend. What I've said is, if Spurs are going to spend big money on players, they have to make sure that it's the right players. Why spend another 65 million on a player like an Ndombele who's just going to sulk, not want to play for Spurs, and then have to cut him for a loss? That's what I'm saying. So if Spurs are going to spend big, they have to spend it on the right players. That's all I'm saying. And I don't think they should waste money. And we know that as a club that they won't waste money. And so that's what I've said. I'm happy enough. If Spurs went, right, we're going to spend 100 million on a player, great. But that player has to provide. You don't want a Jack Grealish or a Sancho. Because if Sancho, what would a Spurs fan think if Spurs had said maybe paid 80 million for Sancho? Levy's great. Oh, he's finally turned a corner. Then Sancho's sitting on the bench, not performing well. He's a flop. Where do you go from there? You know, Spurs fans are saying that Ndombele, he cost 65 million, as a flop. So what is Manchester United fans thinking when they've watched like someone like Pogba, who cost the world record at the time? How much of a flop must he be? Man City must look at Grealish and went, 100 million for a player who's not even on the bench. Why did we buy him? And the only reason they bought him...
He still won more trophies than what Ndombele has.
Who?
He still won more trophies than what Ndombele has. Some of these players at United that we keep talking about.
Yeah, it's because... But why? They didn't win trophies because
they spend the money to bring in the players to win the trophies.
Yeah, but I'm not sure. Like, the debate shouldn't be like Ndombele is a bad example. Sorry,
we keep talking about United. Of course, United are going to get a couple wrong because they spend big every single transfer window. Right. Most times, for bringing a player, they spend big,
and they get it wrong, right? And they're wrong,
and they get it wrong. So what I'm saying is, that's a club that's won trophies and stuff. So you want Spurs to spend big, and if the players flop, then what the Spurs fans do then?
Then they say spend again, which is what happened in
spend again. And again,
point, right? It's like when Tottenham fans say we're not spending, we have spent. 6 of the players in the first team squad have been bought in the last 2.5 years. And whilst I agree with everybody who says Tottenham have invested poorly, and the people that should be chastised for that are the scouting network, are the directors of football, are the coaches who couldn't develop, and the managers who we brought in. You know, I agree with Brian Daigle 1,000,000% when he says Tottenham have an ethos, a start of play, and we chop and change the manager. Daniel Levy's a dickhead when he goes from Pochettino to Mourinho. Like Arsene, like it's like the opposite style of play, and then you go from Mourinho to Nuno, and then you go from Nuno to Conte. Like there's no consistency. I agree with Daniel Levy 1,000,000% in that, and I agree with anyone who says we've spent and we've invested poorly. And if you want to have the argument that ultimately Daniel Levy's responsible because everything stops with him, that's fine. I agree to a degree, but I think my energy is spent on going, Daniel Levy, the only thing you're responsible for is not firing these shit shows that you hired soon enough, but you have to pick the right people to develop these players. You bring an Ndombele for a Pochettino system and you get rid of Pochettino before Ndombele has a chance. Like you look at Bergwijn, right? Bergwijn was dog shit under Mourinho, dog shit under Nuno, and all of a sudden he's played like 300 minutes of football and scored 4 goals for Tottenham. He is suddenly looking like it's horses for courses. Maybe there's players that are in the team now. Harry Winks is a perfect example where everyone thinks he's dog shit, but under a certain manager he might be, but under another manager the system can suit his style. And so I don't know if Daniel Levy is necessarily responsible for that. That's my argument, Dave.
No. Look, and I fully get it. I mean, look, Sean, you know me. I will listen to everybody's point. You know, I always do. But like the thing is, we've talked about finances. We've talked about everything else. But not once have I heard you guys try and listen to the fans that are talking about it from a football perspective.
We have. Well,
I do.
I do. Let me tell you why I do.
No, hang on. Anytime we've brought up about spending them, because look, you spend the money 9 times out of 10, you get quality brought in, okay? But we're not spending the right amount of money to bring in the right amount of quality that we need. And we haven't done it. We haven't done it. Yes, we spent big on Ndombele. I get that, but that's one. You go back and look at the rest of them, they're all in and around 30 million. That is not enough. Now, the thing is, I've sat here and I've listened to you talk about finances. I've tried to understand where you're coming from. I've listened to you, not what would I say? I've listened to you justify the most expensive season tickets, listened to you justify the price hikes and everything else on fans. But I haven't once heard you try and understand where some of these fans are coming from.
No, I get where they're coming from.
So they want to win trophies, you know. But you don't want to talk about that. You want to talk about the finances and everything else. You won't listen to Dave, that wants to try and win trophies. You won't see where they're trying to come from.
Dave, when you get backed into a corner, right, the sorts of positions that I have and the sorts of positions I think Orin has, right, they're so unpopular that you get backed into a corner. Right, our opinions are like unpopular, and you have 90% of people that go Levy out. I've decided that Levy's a toxic. He's a cancer. He's a parasite, and there are a lot of people. Most people in the comments feel that way, and so when you have a different opinion, you're backed into a corner, and you spend your entire time saying, "Hang on a minute, let's think about this," rather than having a frank, balanced conversation where you can say, I agree with the people on this. I agree with people on that. And I do agree. I 100%. I've said that I'll say it as many times as I need to. I 1,000,000% agree that Daniel Levy is a fucking awful negotiator. He's horrendous at public communications. He doesn't say what the plan is. He lets everyone work it out for themselves. He steps away. He disappears. It drives me insane. And I agree with all of the frustrations around poor spending, like haggling over 3 million, when in the grand scheme of things, if it's true that 15 million, between 15 and 20 million for Adama, either price is underneath the market value for a player of his quality. So I agree with people on that stuff. And the reason why, Dave, you think that I don't spend any time accepting other people's opinions, I do accept them.
No,
I have to spend my
time
time
other people's opinions. I'm not saying accepting it whatsoever, but I'm just saying, like, people sit here and listen, and they try to see where you're coming from. I mean, by God means, I mean, you raise great points about finances and that, etc. But anytime I've tried to mention about maybe fans wanting to win, like fans are trying to explain why fans are getting pissed off. It's been, but we have to look at this, but we won't look why fans are getting pissed off. I get the business side of things, but we also, let's not forget, it's a football club. It is a football club. The thing is, I've heard both of you say fans are negative. But you have to understand why, because they're looking at it as a football club as well, and they want to win trophies. You have to understand that as well. You can't just keep calling fans negative because they don't want to go by what all the spreadsheets say all the time. You have to understand that there's two sides to this. Football is a tricky business.
100%.
You have the business side, and you have fans that want to win trophies. And at the end of the day, most players who start out their career, they also have a goal of winning trophies. We cannot forget that.
I don't. One sentence, and it's over to you, mate. And then obviously, Jack, you've been so patient, mate. The last thing I'll say from my perspective, because Orin and I are similar, but I don't agree entirely with where Orin's coming from. But we're similar perspective. From my perspective, for anyone that is interested, I absolutely do understand the frustrations, and I'm with you. If we don't sign anybody in January, it's going to piss me off. I'm with you on all of the things that I understand where you're coming from. But when you're backed into the corner with your own opinions, you have to spend all your time defending them rather than trying to have a fair conversation, right? And so I do understand it, Dave. I do get where people are coming from. And I do know that there's a difference between a business and a football club, because a business has customers and a football club has fans, and there's loyalty that goes unrewarded. I do understand that 100%. I do. Sorry, I'm going to shut up now.
I just want to say it to Jeff as well. I'm not anti Levy or Enoch. I mean, Sean knows. I think there's some stuff that Sean has spoke about, and I agree with him. I'm not the most Levy out sort of person. I just want Levy to reform maybe some of what he's doing. So don't get that wrong, Jeff. Sorry, Spurs, you want to say something?
Yeah, I have accepted what Spurs fans have been saying. I've been hearing it for the last 10 years. I've been hearing it through Alan Sugar. And all I'm doing is going, right, I know how you think. I know how you feel. But what good is it to say, Livy out, Livy out, Livy out. Because it's not like Livy's going to go, you know what, guys? You see that on Twitter? Yeah, I've been seeing a lot of that. Let's just shut up shop. Let's just leave. He's not going to leave because there's going to be hashtags Livy out.
No, I agree
So
with you.
it's about looking at it's about looking at everything that Spurs fans are saying, and I can understand the frustration. Last night when Leicester scored a second goal, I was shouting at TV, "Fucking shit, you're flipping rubbish." I was doing that, but at the same time, when Bergman scored, I was happy, and I do understand the frustration. It's just I would rather spend my life looking at the positives than getting grumpy or sad or angry or going on Twitter and saying Spurs are shit, this player shit, because we do live in a social media world, and mentality does, like the social media, like Pierre Højbjerg, he actually deleted his Twitter account because he got abuse. So if you're a player for Spurs and you're on your Twitter and you're constantly getting told that you're playing for a shit club, the club is racist, Daniel Levy's this, Jose Mourinho's this, they're just going to go, I don't want to, I don't want to be here. So it's the same as like another example, this stream. If people are constantly hearing that this stream is rubbish, it's boring, it's crap, would you want to do a stream if you're constantly hearing it? So that's all I'm saying, is that I understand the frustration of transfers. I understand the Levy out. I understand all that. Do I just think that Spurs fans just need to take a step back and go, hang on a second, we're 1 point behind West Ham. If we beat, we could finish fourth, we could finish third. Let's look at the positives. Let's look at that and think, that's a great achievement. And to think that, like I said before, from watching Spurs finish in 14th, 16th, 10th to now saying that Spurs are challenged for the top four, and that's a space within 6 years, that's a big improvement. And it's not like Spurs have dropped from first place to fourth place. They've gone from 10th place to fourth place. They've had a rise.
But then we've also got to 8th place last season.
Yes, 8th place last season.
We've had that rise, and we've also had a fall.
We have had a fall,
but yes, we have had a fall, and I'm not denying that. It's the fact that, like I said before, look at United or Arsenal. They've had falls as well, and yes, their fans are the same, and they're the same. Like, oh, this is whatever. Yes, I understand the frustration of Livy, but what Livy's done, instead of keeping with Nuno, he looked at that and went, the fans are booing, just like it's happened at Emirates. Arsenal keeps Arteta because Arteta is a yes man and smiles and does all the right things. Levy looked at that and went, I'm going to look like a complete fool for hiring Nuno and sacking him, but he did it. He liked Jose Mourinho. He sacked him because the players wasn't getting on with him. He brought in Conte. He has done his best. Enoch has, if Levy had sacked Nuno and got in like a manager who like was no one heard of, then I would fully agree. It's like, what the hell are you doing? But to go out there and get one of the best managers in the world, that's an achievement. And I'm just thinking that, maybe as a Spurs fan, I look at what the club is doing successfully instead of what the club is doing negative. Because
do you not think to be able to weigh up a fair balance, you have to look at both?
No, I have looked at both, but what I'm saying,
You just said you don't.
No, sorry. What I meant by that is, I can see the negative and I can see the positive. I choose to look at the positive more than the negative. That's what I mean.
Okay.
I just support the positive, and I would sit there and go, you know what? Spurs are improving. Yes, they had a fall 7th, 8th, but they're still improving. So I'm going to look at that. I'm not going to look at the negative and thinking, oh, this player's rubbish, because we know that. We know Dele Alli is not performing. We know that. But what good is it by repeating the same thing over and over and over and over again? That's my mentality. And ever since I started Mr. Spurs, that's why I started Mr. Spurs, because every video I was watching YouTube was always negative comments. Oh, Spurs are rubbish. This player's rubbish. Kane getting booed. I'm like, okay, there has to be fans out there who look at Spurs and go, we're going to look at the positives at what's happening. And I do that with life. I don't look, yes, there's always negative and positive things, but I choose to support the positive and keep looking at that. That's my mentality. So I have heard everything that Spurs, and I do understand the frustration. I just think that maybe it's time we step back and go, okay, we're not as bad as everyone thinks we are. Because, again, the table shows we're 1 point behind. And if Spurs finish in the top four this season, that's a good season.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm looking at.
No, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah. So, yeah, I do understand everything. I understand the frustration.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
it's just look like because the thing is, I listen to you all the time on the finances and everything else, but I wasn't sure whether you were understanding some of
Oh,
the
I
other
do.
fans' frustration because I did hear people say throughout the stream it was negative, but you also have to understand why they think like that. You can't just
Of course, yeah.
dismiss it as negative. You have to understand if they're willing to sit here and listen to you make your points about backing up
100%.
this, that, and the other. You
No, I
also
do.
have to understand why they're frustrated. You can't just go they're negative, this, that, and the other. You can't wash them off like that. You can't do it. You have to try and understand why.
Dave, do you think that I'm unreasonable? Do you think that I don't acknowledge certain areas where I completely agree with the guys that are Levy out, that are the Enoch out? Do you think that I dismiss them, or do you think that I say I agree with people on this side?
No, I'm not saying you're dismissing them, but like just through the stream, like, both of you a couple of times said they're negative. But you didn't really want to understand where they were coming from. You didn't say I understand where they're coming from. You just dismissed them as negative, and you were just like going on about the Daniel Levy stuff. And I was just thinking, like, you know, as much as we're sitting here willing to, as much as they're willing to sit there and listen to you, you can't just dismiss them as negative, expect them to listen to you. You also have to understand where they're coming from.
If I've come across, 1,000,000%, mate. Like I say, I know I'm in the minority, so I know that I have to figure out how to justify my opinion because the weight of the content is so, you know, objectively and subjectively against me. So if I've come across like I dismiss anyone else's, that's not what I'm about at all. I get it. Like I said, just sometimes when you're a try guy and you're backed into a corner, you have to spend your time defending your opinion rather than acknowledging other people's. But I understand.
Jack,
100%.
Speak, Jack.
I'm done.
To be honest, I think we're 3 hours on and you guys have really drained it, to be fair. I think the one thing that maybe where David is coming from that also just maybe hasn't been spoken about is just sometimes as much as we might have to agree the people below me might have a lot of excuses for Levy, sometimes have to think about the missed opportunities that Levy and the hierarchy have had, aka the Champions League final. They could have pushed on from there. Moments as well when they could have replenished the squad when Poch had asked for it and he was actually pushing for things. Yes, maybe it wasn't guaranteed that Poch would win something, but at the same time to say that you kind of just let him kind of drift away to eventually fail is kind of ridiculous. You bring in Jose Mourinho, you think of that as a missed opportunity to be able to win something. You look at Antonio Conte, maybe this will be another missed opportunity. I think that's sometimes maybe why fans get so deeply frustrated at times is because they probably see a lot of missed opportunities under Enoch as well as Levy to be able to actually reach that top four. Two examples would be Leicester City when they won the Premier League title. You look at what they invested in terms of their squad and their scouting department ever since they won the title to keep that sort of status. You look at Aston Villa right now, the moment that they stayed up in the Premier League a second time, they were able to now pursue and actually invest in the squad in order to kind of become more, you know, of a relevant club in terms of the Premier League. So you look at a lot of clubs that have taken advantage of the opportunities that they've been given in order to become or kind of progress higher in the relevancy of the Premier League. And I would say Tottenham Hotspur have not done that, actually, to be fair. But I think that's the one thing that has been mentioned. But at the same time, I feel like we've been gone for 3 hours now. I think we have drained it a bit here.
Yeah. So look, I think we will end it off there quickly. If people want to plug their channels, we'll start with you, Mr. Spurs.
Yeah, just the usual, Mr. Spurs. Post I'm on Instagram, Twitter. Pretty much said it all. And I probably will be moving my channel. I do have another YouTube channel. I'm still debating whether to move it over to there. That'll be like, I'm actually under my Orinario instead of Mr. Spurs. But I might do Mr. Spurs videos and then post it on that. But I would let you guys know. But yeah, just talk about Spurs. And like I said, always look for the positive. And I will, being on this stream tonight's been really good because I think I need to do a video to sound out that I do understand the frustration and the annoyance and the frustration for Spurs fans. I didn't think I think that would be a good video to do just to showcase that I do hear the comments and everything, and I do fully understand where it's coming from. And I just try to give an opinion to just basically shed a light, just to just to look at the positives sometimes. But yeah, like I said, I respect every Spurs fan. You all entitled to your own opinions, and that's as long as you support Spurs and keep supporting them, that's the main thing.
No, absolutely spot on. Well said, man. Well said. Sean, where can people find you, man?
Spurs Talk Show.
Jack, where can people find you, man?
If anybody's kind of interested about the Jordan Veretout signing or potentially as well, Diego Carlos, it seems like that's some work I'm going to need to do to check out those guys and give you kind of explanations on whether those guys are actually worthy of coming to Spurs, whether they would be worth, any sort of fee to come in, whether they would be actual improvements on the squad quality. So if that does sound of interest to you, if you want to know a bit more about maybe someone like a Jordan Veretout, if you want to know a bit more about someone like a Diego Carlos that we're also rumored with, head over to Flat Cap Euro Talk, please, where you will find out more on those players and whether you feel like they might be actually worthy of actually improving our squad.
No, dude, get over and check out the Flat Cap Euro Talk. Like I keep saying to people, players that we're linked with, Jack has it broken down with highlight videos, and he tells you everything you need to know about the player as well. And especially, hopefully, rumours will pick up over the next 11 days. So you're probably going to need that channel to keep you sane, to be honest with you. But look, guys, there we have it. I hope people have took a lot from this debate. I hope people have enjoyed it. Hope people think there have been many good points raised on both sides. And look, we'll see you again tomorrow. There will be no stream here, but we will be back Saturday as always. Make sure you smash that like button, smash that subscribe button if you are new. I want to thank everybody out there for tuning in. I want to thank everybody out there who put in super chats. It's a massive help. And everybody who put their comments in the comment section as well. I want to thank Jack, Sean, and Mr. Spurs all for the time as well. And look, at the end of the day, we're all Spurs and we all want the one thing, which is trophies. So come on, you Spurs. In Conte we trust.
Bye.
Conte we trust.
Bye.